County Commission meeting for October 22nd, 2024. I'm going to redo the agenda again with everybody's permission. We have representatives from FEMA here, and I'd like to have them say a few words to us about the participation of the federal government to help the folks here in Palm Beach County. We need to get you folks out there in the trenches to help our people. So I'm going to have y'all just have a seat. And Mr. Bonlaren, you have the microphone. Hope y'all don't mind if we take FEMA first. Of course not. Very good. Thank you. Go right ahead, sir.
So this was going to be one of the brief comments under the administrator's comments to give you an update on where we are in response to some of our efforts regarding Hurricane Milton and some of the tornadoes. Mary's just prepared a couple of talk points, but we had our partners with us from the field who took some time out to be here with us in solidarity to show some of the support from both the state, federal government. I'll let Mary do some of the introductions and the updates for you. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Good afternoon. You recognize Barry.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, Administrator Baker. I just wanted to recognize our partners that have been so important with us here working in the community. And I'll actually start this way because we go from local to state to federal partners. So Mason Kozak is our regional coordinator with the Florida Division of Emergency Management. We're happy to have him with us.
He's local.
Yes.
You're
Yes.
Palm Beach
Yes, ma'am.
County.
Yep, I cover Palm Beach all the way up to Indian River County.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. And you know Stephanie Shanahan, Todd Bonlaren. So I want to, Josephine,
Give her Chanel.
she has a difficult name. And she's the External Affairs Director. She just actually came to Palm Beach County yesterday. She's External Affairs with FEMA.
State? Well, from the federal?
Yes.
From the federal government. Very good. Thank you for coming here to help
No
us.
problem. Thank you.
And
for
then
having us.
I have to point out Valerie. Valerie has been with us since last Saturday at the EOC. She's assigned to our EOC for the next 30 days. So she's been working very closely with us in the community. She probably knows our streets better than some of our residents. They've been out there, and I just want to tell you all about what some of the actions that have been happening. So I wanted to recognize them while they're here.
Thank you.
in
Where
town with
are
us.
you from? What agency?
FEMA.
FEMA from the federal government? Very good. Thank
Yes,
you very
they're
much.
both-
Go right
They're
ahead.
both from FEMA, so we appreciate their time here. So as you know, on Sunday, October 6th, the Division of Emergency Management began monitoring Hurricane Milton, and we participated in statewide, National Weather Service, and various conference calls. On Monday, October 7th, the Executive Policy Group held their first meeting, and that's when we issued a local state of emergency for Palm Beach County. We were also at that time placed under a flood watch as well as a tropical storm watch. On Tuesday, October 8th, the president signed an emergency declaration which included Palm Beach County, where we would be able to be reimbursed for Category B, which was our protective measures. On Wednesday, October 9th, the county was placed under a tropical storm warning and tornado watch. At that time, we began our protective measures. We went to a level 2 partial activation of the EOC and opened the Emergency Information Center. We also opened a special needs shelter, pet-friendly shelter, and 5 general population shelters. So as you all know, the evening of Wednesday, October 9th, several tornado warnings were issued for Palm Beach County because of Hurricane Milton. Multiple incidents, we were started to receive calls of multiple incidents of damage being recorded about 4:55 in the afternoon, impacting the areas of Loxahatchee Groves, Westlake, Wellington, and portions of unincorporated Palm Beach County. Initial reports by first responders recorded homes that were completely destroyed, overturned mobile homes, and a barn partially destroyed. Multiple cars were overturned with people inside and damaged as well. Multiple large downed trees caused flying debris and heavy structural damage. There were several missing roofs and multiple other buildings and with structural roof damage, as well as no electricity in the area. The first tornado-related 911 call came in at about approximately 4:55 on October 9th. Palm Beach County Fire Rescue units responded to the scene and reported immediate needs for 10 individuals trapped in rubble from a completely destroyed wood frame house on Deer Run Lane. More than 252 911 calls were received at public safety answering points as a result of the tornado that came through our community. In all, 3 patients were transported as trauma and 4 others were transported, but there were no fatalities in Palm Beach County. On October 10th, the National Weather Service surveyed the area and provided initial reports that indicated a tornado which started in the impacted area of Wellington was an EF3 tornado and traveled 21 miles and was 300 yards wide. On October 11th, Palm Beach County was included in the federal disaster declaration for individual assistance for our residents and for Category A, which includes debris removal, as well as the Category B protective measures. Our residents can apply for that individual assistance through the FEMA website at disasterassistance.gov. And then fast forward to October 16th, Palm Beach County received approval for the Blue Roof program. This provides temporary roofing and roof protection until permanent repairs are made. Residents can register by calling 800-ROOF-BLUE or by searching Blue Roof on the web. This is an Army Corps of Engineer program. So I just want to tell you a little bit about the numbers of what happened in that time frame. Within the time frame the EOC was activated, we participated in over 50 different conference calls. We sheltered 948 residents and 29 pets through our shelter operations. The Emergency Information Center fielded over 825 calls to the Emergency Information Center. We had over 375,000 visits to our county website, people looking for Know Your Zone, traffic cameras, and the county homepage, as well as the hurricane page. We had 585,600 total individuals reached with Facebook, Instagram, and X. And we had over 13,000 impressions per post when we posted information to Nextdoor. We actually, post-incident, provided logistical support and coordination to the town of Loxahatchee Groves, where we got them access to 84 tarps, as well as the village of Wellington got access to 100 tarps. Our FEMA liaison arrived, as I said, Valerie Boulette. We appreciate Valerie being here on October 12th. And then we got in teams that are called Disaster Survivor Assistance Staff. These are individuals going door to door in the impacted area. They arrived on the ground on October 15th and began door to door within the acreage community. We started in the acreage because that impact in those homes are so widespread. To date, as of last night, they visited 807 homes, had 140 interactions with residents, and have registered 24 family members in the acreage alone. But in total, in Palm Beach County, we've had over 8,393 individuals register with FEMA. We have opened a multi-agency recovery operations center, which started on Saturday at Village Park Gym in Wellington. That is staffed by 16 local, state, and federal agencies, all there to provide resources and support to our community. As of date, we've had 111 visitors to the location through yesterday. So we will be looking at assessing that site as the days go on this week, and we're looking at a potential of movement of that location on Thursday to the Village of Royal Palm Beach David Farber Training Center in the Village of Royal Palm Beach. This will bring those local, state, and federal resources closer in to individuals in Loxahatchee Groves and the acreage. And also, surveys are being conducted tomorrow for the arrival of a FEMA mobile disaster recovery center. So we will be looking at having that mobile resource travel throughout the impacted area in the coming weeks. So that would be our status of where we are at this point.
Good. Thank you so much for that report. Thank you for all the work you've done. Do we have any questions or comments? Commissioner Baxter.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would just like to say thank you for all your help for my residents. The community, District 6 was impacted, I would say, probably mostly throughout this whole process. So I can't thank you enough for getting everyone together and organized and people on the ground, knocking on doors, and really just being out there and putting this all together. So we're looking forward to continuing to work with the residents. And again, thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Marino.
Thank you. As another district that was severely impacted by this with the Avenir community, Palm Beach Country Estates, Jupiter Farms, anything you can do to move it more centrally located will be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Commissioner Weiss.
Thank you. I just want to our state and our federal partners, on behalf of the citizens of Palm Beach County, just want to send our thanks to you all in helping us during this emergency. We like to think we can do it all on our own, but we know it's because of our partners that we're able to do that. So thank you very much, and please send our best regards to your staffs.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Barnett.
Thank you, Mayor, and I appreciate your report. I saw a map of the tornado touchdowns in the county and the paths they made. It looked as if almost no corner of the county was untouched. It's a miracle that we had no fatalities in our county, thank goodness. For that, our neighbors to the north in Port St. Lucie were not so lucky. I wanted to ask if you would talk about how your agency, your department, works to prepare our residents in our county in order to survive a storm like this so that we can be blessed enough not to have any fatalities.
Thank you for bringing that up, and I appreciate that, because when we talk about disaster preparedness and education, we do that in an all hazards approach. I know a lot of people look to us to come out during hurricane season because that's the, exciting disaster, I guess, if there could be an exciting disaster, but it's all of those hazards that are contained within a hurricane that sometimes people overlook. So when we're making these decisions and protective actions for our county, we're thinking of rainfall flooding, we're thinking of hurricane force winds, but tornadoes are also a hazard within these storms. And that's why we encourage people to find that safe room in their home, protect and mitigate their home, build their disaster supply kit, have all of those things in place so they're ready regardless of the hazard. Their response will be equal. So, we encourage people to continue to do that, and that's our message. And we would really encourage our residents, if they haven't identified that safe place in their home, do so now, because this is a perfect example of how we can have one of those tornadoes that they see in the Midwest come through our community. So we need to be ready for that.
Thank you so much. And I would always make people understand that weather patterns have changed. We have severe weather now, including severe rain, rain events, as well as tornadoes like we've never had before, ever, in the history of Palm Beach County. And I would like to encourage this county to make sure that our shelters are ready for this type of weather coming up, because we've never had this kind of experience with tornadoes. And I reach out to my fellow commissioners who had experienced the damage from tornadoes. So we're moving forward. We're more enlightened, and we will be even better prepared, although we're not out of season yet. So God willing, we'll get through this season, but we'll be ready for next year. Thank you so much for that report. I appreciate it. And we took this out of courtesy, to get the FEMA representatives and the state representatives out back in the field. Thank you for all you do. Ms. Baker.
I just wanted to publicly thank our FEMA partners along with the state partners. They have been there with us every time. So again, thank you publicly. I've said it behind closed doors, but thank you. Also to thank our other community partners that work with us in making sure that our residents have food after all of this happens, et cetera, and staff for all the many hours. And a special thank you to Florida Power and Light for working with us. They go out with our crew in order to destabilize their lines so that we can cut trees and clear roads. But that's a special thank you for Florida Power and Light.
Thank you very much. Very good. Okay, we're going to move on to, on the regular agenda, to the Environmental Resources Management. You've been waiting very patiently. You almost have earned a degree from Vanderbilt after this. We appreciate it. Come on up, and we have your paper here in front of us. So for the record, it's 5D1, and we have staff ready. You're recognized.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you. My name is Deb Drum, and I have the honor of leading the Environmental Resources Management Department as the director, alongside Michael Stahl, who is the deputy department director. and happy to have Darren Leister from the County Attorney's Office and Todd Bonlair, an Assistant County Administrator, also with us today. Thank you for taking this item in recognition that there's people here to speak on this item. The item that we have before you today is a resolution considering reaffirming positions that the board has taken in the past on the long-term protection of Palm Beach County's natural areas. And the purpose of this effort is to proactively and permanently protect Palm Beach County's environmental legacy. There's been a lot of decisions made over a number of decades from this county, from early leadership on the acquisition of lands, and then the voters spoke in 1991 and 1999 for bond referendums that resulted in $150 million of land to be conserved. And so those dollars were spent with the sole purpose of acquiring environmentally sensitive lands for the sole purpose to be protected and conserved in perpetuity. Those are lands that have future land uses as conservation. And so our purpose of this effort is to look back on the 2003 Conservation Lands Protection Ordinance and implement that ordinance where it recognizes in your current county ordinance 052 to look at third-party conservation easements as a way to have that perpetual protection of lands. I want to focus a little bit on the county's environmental legacy and some of the presentations that you get annually from the environmental cross-departmental team. Last couple years, we've focused on a timeline of how the county took very specific and assertive actions for the protection of environmental lands in this county. And so now we're sitting at an inventory of about 31,800 acres of that most protected property. And the county calls those natural areas, and they contain a diversity of ecosystems, and they have very high quality environmental value to the county. It was seen statewide as we were a leader in this, in doing the acquisitions, because I think we recognize in South Florida in particular, having conservation lands to protect water resources, as well as protecting green spaces for a community that was sure to be fully developed at one point in time in the future, was the smart thing and the right thing to do. And we often talk about these natural areas as part of our tourism development plans. We are working on a tourism development master plan that's looking very much at ecotourism as a piece of that. So that's all part of what's wrapped up in the legacy. We currently do have current protections on some of our natural areas, and some have no protections. It's really a mixed bag on what we've been able to get put in place, but we do have current protections that include conservation easements. The county actually did in the mid-2000s move ahead. You already have certain lands with third-party conservation easements on them, but not all of them, and certainly not a majority of them. And so, again, we are always looking, as per the ordinance, for multiple layers of protection that ensures that in perpetuity these lands will be protected. We also have, I mentioned already, the CLPO, or the Conservation Lands Protection Ordinance, where a lot of this is laid out. We have certain lands with grant restrictions. We have certain lands that have mitigation requirements on them, like pine glades. We have our comprehensive plan. So these are not all absolute, and not all of them are fully protected. The next two slides just shows you a map of where the conservation areas or the natural areas are in the county. We do have the opportunity when we were acquiring land was in the north part of the county. And so there is most of the natural areas that we protect are in the northern areas of the county. And that you can see those on the map. And I want to make really clear that the lands that we're talking about putting third-party conservation easements on, there's nothing except for that highest protection of land in the conservation natural areas that we have in the county. We're not talking about vacant parcels that would be considered. We're not talking about privately owned parcels that are regulated through the ULDC on tree preservation. It is not really affecting the development community in any way, because these lands were already and always set aside for conservation protection and bought with bond dollars. So they're already designated for conservation with the future land use as conservation, and what we're proposing makes that concrete. This is looking south of Southern Boulevard on those lands, so that completes the 31,800 acres that I'm talking about. So what is a conservation land trust? The one that you have conservation easements with currently, we do have a few of the properties have third-party held easements through the Nature Conservancy. That would be an example. But a land trust, or a land conservancy, is a private nonprofit organization, and it works with landowners like us to conserve lands through the acceptance and the defense of easements on those properties that are focused on preserving them in perpetuity for the conservation values. They can vary a lot in scope and scale, but all of them share a mission, and that is to work with landowners to protect and preserve these natural areas. The benefits of this are permanent protection, it's independent oversight, it creates public trust and accountability, which I will get to a little bit later in this presentation, and legal clarity. It removes any ambiguity with what these lands will be in the future. And so there will be no question as to whether or not these lands will be anything but natural areas moving forward. So I want to mention a little bit of who this willing partner is. We've gone a couple of decades, like why haven't we come to you in the last 20 some years with third-party conservation easements? We did approach other land, we approached Nature Conservancy. We've had a lack of interest or a willingness to accept the risk associated that goes with holding a conservation easement. We have a willing partner in Conservation Florida. The president and CEO of Conservation Florida is here in the audience. Tracy Dean is with us today. And what Conservation Florida is a 501c3. It was founded in 1999 by David Carr, and it was originally founded as the Conservation Trust of Florida, or for Florida, and it got shortened a handful of years ago to Conservation Florida. David Carr's father, Archie Carr, was recognized as one of the foremost conservationists of the 20th century and is the founder of conservation biology. We all know him, us science geeks all know who that is. And since their formation, they've earned a reputation of integrity within the Florida environmental community and has become accredited by the prestigious Land Trust Accreditation Commission. And I want to talk a little bit about that because you have to be really careful. We just had a very big discussion about Vanderbilt and that long-term partnership. And so I do understand the need to be careful about vetting who your long-term partners are and understanding what that looks like. What the Land Trust Accreditation Commission does is their mission is to inspire excellence, to promote public trust and ensure permanence and conservation of open lands by recognizing land trust organizations that meet very rigorous quality standards and that strive for continuous improvement. And the tenets of their core values are integrity, accountability, service, and diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so to get accredited through this particular organization, you have to meet the very highest levels of integrity and responsibility, and to follow and to demonstrate that you're following the best practices, including a conflict of interest policy, independent decisions not being influenced by political or donor concerns, and confidentiality. So all of these are tenets that Conservation Florida had to demonstrate to this to the Land Trust Accreditation Commission in order to get that valued accreditation. Nature Conservancy is also one. The proposed actions before you today is to work with Conservation Florida to accept permanent conservation easements over county natural areas. And the first step would be to draft a template conservation easement to be used for all county natural area properties. So today's action is a resolution approving this in concept. This is a reaffirmation of actions that the board has already taken through the Conservation Lands Protection Ordinance and through your ULDC, which has specific policies in the ULDC and the comp plan elements that encourages You've already encouraged staff as a county, and it's in our policy to encourage conservation easements as a way to do this long-term protection of these highly valued areas. I think it's important to note that today is just really the beginning. It's the approval in concept, and it's a reaffirmation of policies that the board already has in place. Moving forward, we would bring every single conservation easement on every single individual property before the board, and you would have the opportunity at that point to look at each specific scenario for each property to then determine if you had any concerns or had any other conversations that you needed to have about those properties. So that separate conservation easement would be brought for each property back to the board. In preparing for this presentation and working with our county attorney, they said it was very important to bring up what I think is a somewhat triggering phrase in politics and in government, and that's binding future boards, because everybody hates that idea of binding future boards. But that can mean, that phrase can mean a lot of different things in a lot of different scenarios. So I just want to say, yes, this action would ensure permanent protection over the county's natural areas that don't currently have such protections. But that's exactly the point. That's exactly what was intended by the purchase of these properties. And so this action would solidify, put in concrete that that's what these lands are going to be moving forward. That's the reason for which they were acquired. This action would be consistent with actions of previous boards where they have voted to have natural areas held by a third party or other such preservation obligations. And we currently have, as an example, there's much of our acreage has water management district conservation easements on them, and I've already mentioned the Nature Conservancy ones. There is no anticipated cost to the county on this. Conservation Florida has approached us as a willing conservation trust. Actually, they didn't really approach us. We sort of approached each other and looked at the opportunity. And they plan on doing fundraising to cover the costs associated with preparing and recording these easements and for the perpetual stewardship to make sure that that's protected. This could take a couple of years to roll this out, to get conservation easements established for all of our properties. But again, today is the bringing back a reaffirmation of what past boards have decided through ordinance, through the comp plan, through the ULDC, and that's why we're here today. Now, I want to be fair to say that we do have a demonstration of need. And so recently it got a lot of headlines, and this board was very much engaged in August of this past summer, where the FDEP had proposed amending the Jonathan Dickinson State Parks Management Plan to allow for the clearing of globally imperiled habitat and building of a golf course and other incompatible uses. And this was happening statewide. And our board took affirmative action to state very clearly that that was not acceptable to our county. And so we have been working on this. Our impetus for this was not the state park issue, because we have been considering this, and like our ordinance is from 2003. We knew third-party conservation easements were important a long time ago, decades ago. But it was an example of those scenarios that you think it will never happen here, or it would never be a consideration that we're going to protect our natural areas. It's not always the case. And so this action became even more important to come forward to you, and I'm glad that we could be here today to talk about it. And so with that, our recommended action, motion, and title is to adopt a resolution that continues current conservation easement policy with government entities and/or environmental nonprofit organizations, to support the permanent protection of county natural areas through the granting of conservation easements to conservation land trusts, and to promote environmental stewardship and management of the county's natural areas. And be happy to have any discussion or answer any questions.
Very good. Commissioner Bernard, you're recognized.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Deb, thank you very much for the presentation. I was looking at slide 11. I think you said that there's about 24,172 that's with the South Florida Water Management District, and then 474 with the Nature Conservancy.
Yes.
So is that part of the 31,000, Or are we, because if we already have a conservation easement on about 24,500, are we adding another layer on top of the 24,500?
Yes, that's a great question. And the answer is yes. So we are adding additional layers of protection on all, where our goal is to get all of the 31,800 acres held in a third-party conservation easement scenario. I provided those other acreages as an example to the other entities that we're working with in various levels of protection that are out there. So yes, the intention is to add an additional layer of protection, and as per the ordinance, the quote from the ordinance is that the Board of County Commissioners has determined that the public interest is best served by these lands being preserved and managed as preserves or for conservation forever, and that the best means of ensuring permanent preservation is to provide multiple layers of protection for conservation lands through third-party conservation easements, deed restrictions, shared title, and a charter amendment. And then it continues. And so, yes, this is an action being taken on all of those lands to add that additional layer of protection.
Okay, but we do have the layer of protection right now on the 24,500 acres.
We have some of them, but again, I will say that as an example, the Water Management District Board is not the same board that was there 20 years ago. And so you could have changes in perception or perspective. This action will really solidify and concrete that our county commission intends on keeping the 31,800 acres of lands that we have designated as natural areas. That's our intention, not anyone else's decision but ours.
Now, you mentioned that the South Florida Water Management District, their board has changed, based on 20 years ago. What happens with this Florida, I forgot the name of it, but
Conservation Florida?
What if the board changes 20 years from now? What protection does it provide us from the county?
So there's specific, all of those details will come back to you in the form of conservation easements for each property.
Okay.
But I can tell you, yes, there's language that ensures the protection of our county's role in this by, they basically can't get out of it without giving it transferred to another eligible qualified organization. And so the language is there, but today's effort is really to say, you're giving me permission to say, yes, go bring some of these easements back on these properties. Let's look at the language. This is a reaffirmation, the resolution that is a reaffirmation of the ordinance, the Conservation Lands Protection Ordinance, and the actions that the board has taken through the development and the adoption of the ULDC and the comp plan. It's all, everything that you're taking, the action that for the resolution today is consistent with all of those policies. And so I would like the opportunity to bring back to you the conservation easements with the specific language, and we can talk about all of those details when we have one in front of you.
Okay, just follow up, Madam Mayor,
You go right
just to
ahead,
make sure.
Michelle.
So, at some point, just to make sure I understand it, whatever we decide today, each property would be brought back to this board, and the board would make that decision in terms of if they want to enter into the easement with Florida Conservative. Is that correct?
Yes.
And I guess I have another question in regards to what happens, let's say there's a property that we believe that that can be used for some public purpose in the future, and
So that's exactly what this is. This is exactly what that is trying to prevent. And that is the designated natural areas,
Okay.
not every county-owned piece of property,
all right.
not any other area other than the 31,800 acres of the most protected, the most environmentally sensitive lands that this county has. It's really confined to that acreage. and to say that, no, this is not going to be a affordable workforce housing project in the future. It would prevent that from happening.
Okay, no, I just want to make sure that I understand that it's only those acres.
It's only the 31,800 acres that you saw on the map, that is comprised of the highest quality environmentally sensitive lands, the highest tier. And it's not anything that comes before you as the zoning board on, say, a property that you would have tree preserves or things like that. It is not that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Weiss. Commissioner Bernard. Commissioner Weiss, you're recognized.
Thank you. So I'd like you to, I think there's maybe a bit of a misunderstanding what's exactly in front of us today. So can you just in third grade terms, since that's probably where I'm at today after Vanderbilt, can you just explain what is the power of this resolution?
The power of the resolution is to bring something forward to the board where you're reaffirming that this county is going to continue the track that we have.
And now I'm looking to the attorney. I want the legal opinion next.
It's just an expression of the board's will to place these 31,000 acres or a portion of them under conservation easements with third parties.
So basically, it's saying that looking in the future, we would consider doing this.
You're not binding yourself to enter into a conservation easement. You're just expressing the board's pleasure that this is something that Deb can bring back to you for each property, and you can vote yes or no on them.
Okay, very good.
And Commissioner, if I could just add too, this program was started, we were at the tip of the spear in acquisition a long time ago, and I think it is beneficial for county programs that are longstanding to have this check-in to remind, because boards change a lot and not everybody, and so having this official on-the-record conversation at the board to really remind where we started, what our environmental legacy was. Some people don't even know that we had bond referendums in 91 and 99, and so it's important to, in my opinion, come back and just reaffirm where we're at and where we're headed.
So, and I know now that these are gonna come back, but some questions about, in general, of these organizations, because this is not specific to a particular organization. What is their requirement with our easement? What do they have to do? I assume we have a contract with them?
Yeah, sure. So the easement, essentially, they are kind of like the supervisor. We will manage the properties. We will take care of them. They will make sure that we are complying with the terms of the easement, and they will have enforcement ability in the cases that we are not.
And what would that enforcement ability be?
Likely, if, say, we're putting in a structure that's not permitted by the conservation easement, they would come in and move for an injunction, a court injunction to get us to remove the structure.
But I can say, to offer, we've done a little bit of due diligence on this partner, right? And so the vetting of, they haven't had any litigation in 25 years. If we were in violation of something, they would work with us to get into compliance with that.
I understand, but I'm trying to get the better understanding of what their obligations are and what the county's do they have any so do they have an obligation to review and inspect each property every year, or 5 years, or 10 years?
So I would love to come back, when we come back with the with an example of a property where we're bringing forth a conservation easement for you to see. We will go through a fine-tooth comb with all of the language in there, but essentially they come do annual inspections to ensure that we are managing the properties as per the management plans that have been approved by the board.
And what does that mean when you say management plans that were, does that mean just as an example, I know we do a lot of work with managing invasive species, right, of plants. If there came a time when, let's say, for a year, the county didn't have the resources, personnel, or whatever, to be able to do that, what would happen?
So we would, well, it's our job to ensure, because we have management plans that go through your advisory council. So you have a Natural Areas Management Advisory Committee, and the management plans that we do for every natural area goes to them, and then they make a recommendation to you as the board, and then we bring those management plans to you as the board. And so that is a responsibility that we have to advocate for our annual budget and our funding. And so it's our job to, to continue to make that happen. We have a great program. We're very low risk in terms of the responsibility that we have. We are not looking to expand our natural areas inventory. We're not looking to, with very few exceptions, we don't have like large swaths of land available in the county that we want to acquire anymore. We're focused on management, and we have our management very efficiently done. So it doesn't, because we have such low exotic vegetation on our properties, it actually costs us less by continuing to maintain them.
I'm looking at the attorney.
So if the easement has a term in it that says we have to keep it free of the property, free of invasive species, and I don't believe that they do, then arguably, if we failed to do so, we would be in violation of the terms of the conservation easement, and the easement holder would have enforcement responsibilities against us. Now, of course, they can defer. They have some leeway in that, but I mean, I think it's going to depend on what the terms of the specific terms of the easement are.
Okay, so it's good. It's good for us to know.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. And then last thing I have for now is, what if the trust and sometimes 501c3s, they fold? What happens if that were the case? What happens to our easements at that point?
So the easement would essentially be assigned to another 501c3 corporation, and a land steward corporation. That's what.
And we would have, so would we assign it, or?
No, they would assign it, but they would provide us notice of the assignee, and we would like to have the ability to veto the assignment if it's not something someone we're comfortable with.
Could they assign it regardless if they go out of business? If they just decide they don't want to do this anymore?
Well, we would have to look at the provision, but the way it is listed as of now, they are responsible in perpetuity. So I do not believe they would be able to assign it to another one so long as they are a viable entity.
Okay. All right, those are my questions for now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Weiss. Commissioner Woodward and then Commissioner Baxter.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to piggyback on what Commissioner Weiss was asking on, if we were to say have a bad year and we don't have the finances that we do to take care of our lands, and we were to fall behind on some of these projects just for upkeep, do they have the ability to assess us or fine us a financial amount?
No.
So what is their enforcement at that point?
Their enforcement would be to take us to court and get a court order attempting to require us to comply with the terms of the easement. So.
Wow.
So when you bring us these agreements, each property, each of those different ones will have its own separate agreement?
Yes, they'll each have their own conservation easement. Each property's conservation easement will come back to the board. You'll be able to review the legal description, the map. You'll be able to see the map of what's covered and review that language. And again, you have these already. I mean, this has not been an issue for us for 30 years because of our program and because of how we care for the natural areas. I'm not anticipating this is a high risk responsibility. The real point here is really putting into cement the future plans for these conservation lands.
So for this, Conservation Florida is the organization that we're looking to enter into this agreement with. Do they have a board, and how is it compiled?
They do have a board, and do you want to come speak to how your board is identified?
Sure, you come on up, be recognized. State your name and position.
Hi, Commissioners. Tracy Dean. I'm the CEO of Conservation Florida. It's nice to see you all. Our board of directors is 100% philanthropic. So these are volunteers who are volunteering their time, their talent, and their treasure to a nonprofit mission. So, as a nonprofit, we are not fueled by politics. We're fueled by philanthropy. And I think that's the important point here. And as to today's decision, we're really grateful for the opportunity to work with you. And this is really empowering the county and Conservation Florida to explore this avenue more. And then I really look forward to answering more of your questions as we do that. But this has a lot of potential to do some pretty extraordinary things, and we're excited for the opportunity to explore that with you.
How large is your board? How many members?
I believe we have 11 today from across the state of Florida.
They're just volunteers?
They're Floridians, everyday Floridians from, Northwest Florida down to here at South Florida who care a lot about Florida and our natural wild places.
And there's at least one representative from Palm Beach County or close?
Not yet, but we are actively seeking a volunteer for our board of directors here in Palm Beach County.
So the closest geographically to us would be?
Okeechobee.
Okay, Okeechobee County, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Are
Thank
there
you.
any questions or comments? Yes, Vice Mayor.
Well, I think, being that most of these lands are in District 1, and they were purchased with bond dollars, I think it's important that we take every opportunity to add a layer of protection. There's been encroachments on county land already, not necessarily conservation land, but some park land and some like people developing in parkland that we haven't actually policed. It happens because we have 2,400 square miles of property that we oversee the unincorporated areas of that. I'm saying. To have an agency whose sole job is conservation is just an additional oversight. And I think as a board, we'd be remiss in not allowing this to happen. One of our jobs is the protection of our public trust. And the public trusted us when they said yes to the bond referendum to buy these properties. So given the nature of what a county does and all of the different requirements of the county and our 1,300-page budget, I think it would behoove us to have somebody who carries oversight that their sole job is to do that. Their sole job is the protection of conservation lands. This is not putting a conservation easement on property that we say 60% has to be preserved and 40% is development. That's not what this is. This is land that's already in conservation, that already has some form of protection, but this is a significant form of protection going forward. So I know we've got a lot of cards, but I think and I'm not going to speak for the board, I'm speaking for me. I think that if you all can get up and just say, yes, we would like this, you don't have to take the 2 minutes to do or 3 minutes to do that. We really know where you're all coming from, because I haven't gotten a single letter that said, I'm against this. Every single letter I got said, I'm for this. And we are not, as a county, I guess, Darren, the question would be, is there a reverter clause? Given what we just went through with Vandy, is there a point in time where no, okay.
No, there's no. This is permanent, in perpetuity protection of these lands.
Unless they are the breach and not us.
Well, yes, but they're not. They're. I don't see them going into breach, and even if it is, it's still they still hold the easement unless I don't know, they go into our property and actively damage it, which is not something.
But again, we are not giving away county land.
No.
This is just a policing mechanism.
We still own the fee simple to the land. We're granting a conservation easement over the land.
And there will never be construction on any of these lands. This is not developable land.
I mean, this will ensure that this land is not developable land.
But as we purchased it, that's what the purpose of it was.
That is my understanding, correct?
That is
Okay, so we are not hindering the business community in any way, shape, or form by doing this.
No, this is land that is owned by us, Palm Beach County.
Land that is owned by us for conservation.
correct.
Okay. I, for one, am in favor. Thank you.
That's fair. Okay, Commissioner Weiss, go ahead. We have a number of cards, folks. We're going to name 8 names, 4 on one podium and 4 on the other. You'll be given 2 minutes by the Vice Mayor. As soon as you're recognized, you can go ahead and start speaking. Go right ahead, Commissioner Weiss.
Looks like Charlotte Taylor, Gail Ladd, Richard Mayrood, Melissa Mayrood, Melinda Ogden, Jane Thompson, Casey Darling Kiffin. And I will,
Again, you don't have to
Okay,
take
thank
all
you
of the
very
2
much.
minutes.
That's okay, Vice Mayor, that's okay. Go right ahead, ma'am, you're recognized. State your name.
My name is Charlotte Taylor. I'm a Palm Beach County resident. I'm interested to know where we can find the ratio between developed and undeveloped land for Palm Beach County, and actually for all counties in Florida. That's something I'd like to know. I think others would as well. I'd also like to know the ratio of non-tax property in the city of Palm Beach, West Palm Beach, to the tax property. In other words, if you've given up the right to collect taxes because you're encouraging a company to come here, I'd like to know what the ratio is of the taxed and the non-tax property. And I'd like to know where to find it. I mean, I'm not asking you to tell me right now, but I'd like to know. Secondly, I would like to recommend for your consideration the establishment of a county preservation fund for the purpose of purchasing land and open spaces for future protection. Other communities have experienced great success with their community preservation funds over many years now, and raising millions of dollars to protect natural landscape and water sources for our future. Thirdly, I would like to say thank you and congratulations to the staff for their wisdom and foresight with regard to conserving natural areas. Let's build on this, and with weather extremes, as you mentioned, increasing, now's the time for permanent protection of our natural land.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you, thank you.
Good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Gail Ladd. I'm from Jupiter, Florida, and I definitely support this resolution. I do have petitions that we signed. It was established on Friday night, and as of 8:15 this morning, we had 726, so we think that's pretty good. These are all supporters of the resolution, and I totally agree with it, and I won't bore you with what I was going to say. So, yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you, ma'am. Good afternoon.
Hi there, I'm Melinda Ogden. I'm here as president of the Palm Beach County chapter of the Florida Native Plant Society. Our mission is to conserve, protect, and restore native plants and native plant communities across Florida, which of course are in our natural areas. Thank you to ERM for all that you do, and thank you to the board for hearing this today. Of course, we are in favor of this resolution. We want to protect these lands as best we can. Development pressure here in the county is very high. I personally am wedged in between 2 of our natural areas, the smallest one to my south, the Paw Paw Reserve Natural Area that protects our 4-petal pawpaw endangered species. And from there, you can see a 100 condo project being built. The property to my north is the Juneau Dunes Natural Area, which serves as a flooding area when we have extreme rains. It's designated to take that rain and keep it away from our built environment. And from that natural area, you can see 3 cranes and another 100 condo property. So we need to protect the lands as best we can. The people voted to get these lands in the first place. You saw the excitement, I'll call it, when the people, all the people, not just the tree hugger people, I'm fine, we can be tree huggers. Everybody came out to protect the state parks in August. That was an overwhelming support. I think that if everyone knew that our lands could also be subject to changes, that they would be here as well, and we would be here for the rest of the day. So I'll yield my 15 seconds. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your work. Sir, you're recognized.
Richard Marwood, 7667 Park Lane Road in Heritage Farms. I was part of this original bond referendum to try to purchase and set aside some of these lands. But you heard an old adage today, the best time to plant a tree is 30 years ago. The best time to save land was 100 years ago. And the only people who did that was up in Vero Beach, Pelican Island National Wildlife Refuge with the help of Theodore Roosevelt. Locally, Audubon, and in the rest of Florida, Audubon did in fact purchase and set aside land. Our program started in the late 80s and went on through today with award-winning work from ERM. It's the envy of most counties, and it has won awards around the entire country. So we have something that is irreplaceable. These are intact, original, native ecosystems, and that means not just trees and birds and shrubs, microorganisms in the soil. There's an entire cross-section, a profile of soil. You do not remove, move, or reconstruct this. You save it where it is, you manage it properly, and it is to the benefit of everyone in this county. This land is not vacant. You can drive by scrub and think, well, warehouses would be great there, or a golf course. It is not vacant. It is fully occupied. It is fully developed biologically. So these are not vacant lands, and they are not appropriate for future work anywhere, any future construction. Protect these lands in perpetuity, please.
Thank you so much, sir. Ma'am, you're recognized.
Hello, good afternoon. Melissa Magahi Moirud, 7713 Park Lane Road, Heritage Farms. Today I'm not here on behalf of Heritage Farms. Today I am here on behalf of Palm Beach County Native Plant Society as the Conservation Chair. First and foremost, I would like to give some kudos to your ERM staff. They are probably some of the brightest and dedicated people I have ever met. This is an excellent agenda item to be brought forth in light of what was almost happening in Jonathan Dickinson State Park, which is still not over yet. So let's get ahead of the ball. Let's make sure our state parks are protected. The other thing I wanted to make comment on is I was listening to the Vanderbilt University folks. I'm really excited. This is an exciting part. On the other end of the spectrum, progress goes in many different ways. That's one aspect of it. And my thoughts went to my 2 nephews, one who is a PhD graduate in nuclear physics from MIT, and the other who is a graduate of Harvard MIT in business and financing. They both spend their free time in natural areas, not necessarily here in Palm Beach, but in other parts of the country. Our natural areas are not just about the plants, even though I am the conservation chair, or about wildlife. They are about recharge, our watering, filtering our air, and also about rebooting our human soul. It's an important part of us as human beings, not just the environment, for all of us intact. So what I'm asking is that you go ahead and go along with this agenda item, promote this, and let's move forth in progress with the university and progress with our natural areas and keep them forever intact. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Ma'am, you're recognized.
Thank you for the opportunity to comment today. My name is Casey Darling Niffen. I am the Conservation Policy Director with the Florida Wildlife Federation. Our mission is to safeguard Florida's water, wildlife, and wild spaces by taking action today to prevent irreversible loss tomorrow. I'm here to speak in support of this board passing a resolution today for the permanent protection of Palm Beach County's natural areas through the granting of conservation easements to accredited land trusts. The Florida Wildlife Federation advocates for conservation land acquisition throughout the state. Conservation lands like Palm Beach County's natural areas provide critical habitat for wildlife, including numerous endangered species. They improve surrounding water and air quality, and they provide access for recreation that betters the lives of residents and visitors. The means of protection for conservation lands is critical, and this board has the opportunity today to take bold action for almost 32,000 acres of natural areas. I grew up here in Palm Beach County, and these natural areas are some of my favorite to bring my family to and to explore and to hike. This initiative will ensure that the county's conservation lands are protected and preserved for future generations like my kids to enjoy. I want to thank this board for your support of our state parks and for speaking out against incompatible development within our beloved state parks. Together, we were successful in halting those plans for now, but I think I can safely say that it left us all wondering what other natural areas were vulnerable to similar development proposals. Today's resolution would allow you to put those words into action. It's an exemplary model for other counties in the state of Florida to follow and to provide that additional layer of protection, and it's something that the Federation fully supports in collaboration with an accredited land trust like Conservation Florida. It is something that will help to perpetually restrict development and incompatible uses like we saw. So really quick, I like to hike Frenchman's Forest. I went out there with my parents. They said, why didn't we ever do this when you were a kid? And I said, well, let's look up the history. It was something that they voted for in 1991. It opened in 2001. And that's something that they get to enjoy with their grandchildren now because of the work of past boards. And so doing this today will uphold the will of the voters and all of the work that went into protecting those lands from the constituents and from past boards. So thank you. I hope you approve this today, and thanks for the opportunity to comment.
Thank you for your summary. Good afternoon, ma'am. You're recognized.
Hi, good morning. Jane Thompson. I live in the western communities adjacent to the Loxahatchee Wildlife Refuge, right on the cusp within about 2 miles. I moved to Florida when I was 24 and started in North Miami, and it's 37 years later, as I've moved north, so has development at such a rapid pace that it's frightening, actually, to think what I saw almost happen to the Jonathan Dickinson State Park, the development there. And I'm fearful that the same thing can happen to these natural areas that are here brought to you today in 5D1. So I'm here to ask your support to adopt the resolution for 5D1 to add that layer of support. In memory of the 21 species that were just put on the extinction list by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Commission, one of which was the Bachman's warbler in 2023. We need these lands. They're very, very important, critical lands for habitat for these species before they are put on the list. So please add this layer of protection to help these species, maintain these species, critical species for our environment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Next
Commissioner Weiss?
8, here we go. Karen Marcus, Scott Zucker, Lisa Interlandi, Kay Gates, Christine Lockhart, Chip Block, Jessica Namath, and Dr. Christopher McVoy.
Thank you so much. Commissioner Marcus, if I had known you were here, I would have called you first.
That's perfectly all right. I've enjoyed the day.
I'll bet you have.
Thank you for letting me speak. It's Karen Marcus. I'm the president of Sustainable Palm Beach County, but a former county commissioner, and I have the privilege of being on that dais when we did the bond issues in the 90s. And so that was a generational move that we did, and today is another opportunity to make another generational move. It's not about us. Actually, it's about those next generations that are coming. They have the assurances that there's those extra protections on this property that we worked really hard to purchase. Just real quickly, I want to go to the Water Management District. Lovely people, great group. There was a situation where we had a previous executive director and a previous governor. They came to us. There was a conservation easement on a piece of property, and they said, you know what? We're going to take it off, and either you, the county, can buy it, or we're going to sell it to somebody else. And we bought it, so we could make sure it stayed in protection. So those things happen. This will make sure that it stays in protection. We don't ever have to worry about things like that happening. And again, this is a generational move. It's not really about today, but it's about that next generation, your kids, my grandkids. So thank you very much for considering this. Thank you, Commissioner Marino, for stating your support. It's very much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Maria. All right, ma'am, you're recognized.
Thank you so much. Lisa Interlandi. I'm the Policy Director of the Everglades Law Center. And hot off the presses, I have a letter here from the Everglades Coalition, which is a coalition of 60 organizations that are dedicated to protecting the Everglades. And could I submit this for the record, please? They are in support of this proposal.
Thank you.
I wanted to share their support because this really is a monumental thing. This isn't something, as Ms. Marcus said, that is for today. This is something that is very much for the future. And I think that when the proposal came up with the state parks, I don't think anyone expected that. And I think that's one of the reasons why people were so taken aback and shocked and surprised. And I think it just goes to show that we really can't predict what's going to happen in the future. And the one thing I do know is that the pressures that our conservation lands are facing are only going to increase as time passes. As our population becomes as our county population becomes greater, those natural areas are just going to be that much more valid. They're not making any more. We can't get any more. There's no more that we could buy even if we wanted to. There are a few, and I hope the county continues to acquire the land that we have that's still available for purchase. But this isn't something that we can just go and create. So every acre, every square foot, when it's gone, and we can't recreate it. So protecting this land for not just our kids. When we bought this land, it wasn't just supposed to be for our generation and the next generation. It was truly supposed to be forever. And when you think about the length of time that is, there's not enough protections in the world to really protect it forever, but we're doing the best we can, and I really appreciate the county going forward with this, if you do. And I understand that there are still questions with it, but this is just a resolution directing staff to move forward with this. A lot of details have to be determined when the conservation easement is drafted. We hope that we have an opportunity to review that, and we absolutely support this, and we thank you all for considering it.
Thank you so much. Sir, you're recognized.
Scott Zucker, I'm the president of Audubon Everglades, which is the local Audubon chapter in Palm Beach County. So we've been a natural area partner since the beginning of the program. Just this past month, we had tours at 4 of your natural areas. And I think we had a total of 65 people on those tours for the people going to look for birds, basically. And I myself was at Royal Palm Beach Pines just the other day walking, which is because I live in Wellington, so that's kind of the area that I go to often. But what I really wanted to bring up was this seems to be a no-brainer. I mean, the more protection we can put on these lands, the more likely we are to preserve them for the future. And I wanted to address something Commissioner Bernard brought up, and I had the same thoughts when 24,000 plus acres are currently somewhat protected with South Florida Water Management District. But then I remembered in 2018 when South Florida Water Management District wanted to break the lease with Loxahatchee National Wildlife Refuge and take over 140,000 acres. And it was only because their time ran out and Governor DeSantis came in, totally threw out that board, that we reached an agreement. So they could change their minds about this 24,000 acres anytime they want. And so it is imperative that we protect this property. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Ma'am, you're recognized.
Christine Lockhart, unincorporated Boynton Beach. Thank you for taking the time before lunch to meet with this agenda item. And I'm glad to see a lot of the support here today, the wonderful presentations by Palm Beach County ERM. I had the pleasure of serving on the Conservation Lands Acquisition Selection Committee back in the day, and there was concern even back then that that conservation easements were extremely important to have however many levels of protection to preserve them in perpetuity, because there were the risk that's been mentioned that you have support so far by previous speakers. These are important not only as buffers to other public conservation lands, but as mentioned before, it's important for water quality, replenishing the aquifer, and also deterring saltwater intrusion that happens not just on our coastal communities, but also further inland, since we have such a limestone substrate. Thank you so much for considering this. Affirming this and approving this item will also help to affirm that the County Commission Board respects those that did vote for the 1991 and 1999 referenda, and that to show that their votes do count and that you respect those votes. So, and also want to encourage you, I don't know if you want to bother doing a show of hands, how many of you have been to a Palm Beach County natural area in the past year? So that would be fantastic. Thank you so much. I understand that they're going to have some fun things going on for Halloween. It's also great for mental health. I take my mentees out there and they find it very calming in stressful times. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Sir, you're recognized.
Chip Block, former mayor of Jupiter Inlet Colony,
If I know you were there, I would have called you already. Good to see you.
former chairman of your Water Resources Task Force, and currently on the board of Sustainable Palm Beach County. Madam Mayor, Madam Vice Mayor, commissioners, and most importantly, Administrator Baker, my buddy. I'm also very much in support of this. I think the additional protection is needed, especially given what just occurred. Palm Beach County, Jonathan Dickinson, Palm Beach County has a proud tradition of conservation. Along with Martin County, our northern neighbor, I think this is a very good idea. When it was first broached, I looked up Conservation Florida. Encourage you to do that as well. They have a website. I think you'll be very impressed with their board. Their board is business people, farmers. It's not just us tree huggers. So it's a bunch of very reputable people. And basically, Commissioner or Vice Mayor Marino said it all for me. I encourage you to have a double victory today for the county by approving the Vanderbilt program and additional protection for our natural lands. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Ma'am, you're recognized.
Hello. My name is Jessica Namath, and I'm an almost 4-decade-long resident in northern Palm Beach County, Tequesta, Florida, where we have the Jackson Riverfront Pines Park that we love there. I've served on many boards and volunteer my time in all of our natural spaces and areas, and was the former chair of Tequesta's Environmental Advisory Committee, where I worked closely with and was able to give out stickers of our native animals to children at our food trucks that we had, and worked closely in the community, and they were thrilled to have the maps to see all of these spaces. So I was well positioned at a time when our parks came under threat. I quickly started a Facebook group that has garnered nearly 50,000 people. And we all saw that Floridians love our wild spaces, our wild Florida. You know, as has been mentioned, we were taken aback by the fact that these things could even happen. And I would say that as residents, we're probably more concerned about the future boards of our local government than the Board of Conservation Florida in the future, because the decisions, unfortunately, that have been made recently have been concerning. I've driven to Hernando County and spoken out with regards to the Withlacoochee Forest, the land swap they've considered there. I've spoken in Orlando, and unfortunately, it doesn't seem like local government is hearing us. So you have the opportunity to really be a leader and show people that you did hear us. So thank you, Commissioner Marino, again, for speaking out, because Floridians want to hear that our government officials know and understand that we love and appreciate our natural areas, our wild Florida, and what space that we have to go out and enjoy just the wilderness that's left. So thank you. Please vote in favor of this. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And good afternoon. Good to see you again.
Hi, I'm Kay Gates. I've been long associated with the Sierra Club. And of course, the Sierra Club is very much in support of this referendum, of this motion. I want to share some personal comments. And Commissioner Bernard, this would be a wonderful part of your legacy for Palm Beach County, to put this layer of protection on these natural areas. My husband and I moved to the county in the fall of 1998 after we retired from working and raising children. In the fall of 1999 was the first time we had an opportunity to vote. We came out of the voting facility and we were high-fiving each other. We couldn't believe that we had moved to a county that appreciated and would willingly tax ourselves to preserve land for natural purposes and to preserve natural plants and animals. Following that, we did attend a few water management district meetings where the people were selecting which pieces of property. The pieces of property, they were called ESL lands, environmentally sensitive lands at that point in time. And there was a lot of scrutiny that the properties that were selected for the purpose that they had natural, native trees and plants and animals. So these aren't any old lands. These are specific lands. If you notice on the map, the parcels in the south part of the county are pretty small because development had already taken the majority of the land. Now, in the north part of the county, there were larger parcels that were available. Please continue to protect these properties with an additional safeguard. Thank you.
Thank you. Good to see you again. Good afternoon, sir. You're recognized.
Dr. Christopher McVoy, Mayor Sachs, Vice Mayor Marino, County Commissioners, County Administrator Baker, thank you for considering this. Thank you to the staff of for being forward-thinking and finding ways to provide extra protection. It's more than needed. We don't know what comes on future sorts. We certainly know that the development pressure will always be here. As was pointed out, the parcels in the southern part are very small. I've been on almost all of those parcels, and I want to reiterate what Richard Moyroyd said. Those are totally irreplaceable. Even if they're small, there are species on those that are nowhere else in the county. Maybe on one another parcel, but that's it. I really hope that this will be a unanimous vote of support for future generations. I think we might be there. It's definitely needed. It's something that you're really leaving a legacy for future generations, and I highly encourage you to do it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right. Commissioner Weiss?
Yes. All right. Last three cards we have here: Drew Martin, Alexandria Larson, and Bob Gebra.
Okay, very good. Well, good afternoon, Drew.
Good afternoon, Mayor, and congratulations, Mac Bernard, on your tremendous service. We will miss you and look forward to your future. Please stay in touch. Thank you, Commissioner Marino, for your support. We support this. It's really important. Somebody said that maybe you should have done it 30 years ago, but It's never too late to make things right. It's too bad you can't just do it all today, but I guess you're going to have to bring each one of these before the commission. Hopefully they'll be approved. I think it's very important to protect these lands that have been purchased, because every year the price of the land goes up, and every year there's more pressure to develop areas that need to be preserved. So we really support staff's recommendations. I only wish that this extended to the land in the Ag Reserve. It's my impression it does not, even though some of that land is owned by the county and 100% and could be having a second party involved, or a third party might be positive in protecting that. But again, I understand today that's not what you're voting on, but we appreciate the effort that is put in by and Deborah Drum and her staff, Michael, and the others. So thank you so much. And again, thank you, Commissioner Bernard, for your service. We will miss you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Good to see you. Ms. Larson, you're recognized.
Well, if the bond money, if you want to get it straight, 100 million was for the Ag Reserve, 50 million was for the preserved lands, save where the birds live. And I wish we had bought a hell of a lot more land down in the Ag Reserve. Obviously, we didn't get our bang for our buck down there that we did in the north end when we bought the preserved lands. But I do hope that this will put a nail in the coffin of anybody saying, well, we're going to come back, we're going to change our minds, we don't want to do this, and we're going to build on this land, because we need that kind of protection in this county. We really do. Because I am listening to other boards, not you guys, but I've been to other meetings recently where they say, well, we're all built out, we need to build some more. And it's just bad, commissioners. We don't need to build some more. I think Milton kind of told us that. He gave us a little bit of a kick and said, don't build anymore, slow down. We need to slow down on development. That's an absolute. It just has to happen. Take a breath. I've asked it 100 times up here, take a breath. Don't build, because we have things coming at us that we're not even aware of. And Milton surely showed us that. So thanks for at least doing this. And I hope it does make it where they can't change their minds, because it seems that another board will come along in 20 years and change their mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Larson. Sir, you're recognized.
Yes, good afternoon. I guess I get the last word, or one of the last words. Those that spoke ahead of me talked to you about the actual benefits of all this. I just want to leave you with 3 words. This is going to put binding on future boards. We never have much that goes forward that much. We always have the next board come in, and I really don't want to stand here in a few years and have to make the same pitch again. We have a chance to make something, leave a legacy for the future. So we support it wholeheartedly. Hopefully you'll unanimously vote for it.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Weiss, do we have any other cards?
No, but we did receive 12 non-speaking cards in support of the item.
Very good. Okay. Do we have any questions or comments from the board before we take a vote on Commissioner Bernard's legacy? Sort of put the pressure on you, Commissioner Bernard. Go right ahead, Commissioner Weiss.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to go back. This is the first I've heard about South Florida Water Management's, that situation. How were they able to remove or threaten to remove the easement and then cause us to buy back our property?
That doesn't sound right to me. So the easement, the conservation easements that South Florida Water Management District have on our property are usually for permitting purposes. And so if those easements got released, we wouldn't have to buy back our land, because we maintain ownership of our land. An easement isn't ownership of our land. So I don't know what that commenter was talking about. I'm sorry.
Okay.
We could get those details and get back to you, Commissioner. I'd be happy to do so.
All right. Yeah, and I'd also add, if you circle back, I want to understand better the requirements of our partners, and that because, and so you're saying, I take you at your what you're, are you, or I'd like to understand, did they take easements off our lift conservation easements or try to remove conservation easements off our property?
I do not know. I do not know.
Is it possible? Can the party that we assign this to lift them off?
In this situation, the way that we're drafting the easement, no, it is not possible. In the South Florida water management situation, I'd have to examine the specific conservation easement and look at its terms to see what they say about extinguishment of the
Okay,
easement.
I'd really like to get that clarified before you bring this back. The other thing I was asking about is the issue of the trust that we're working with, or I shouldn't say the trust, the organization, and just the ability, because somebody made the comment that, or I think you did, Ms. Drum, that the boards change. What if their board changes, or any organization's board changes? What does that do to our easements if they're assigned to them? You don't have to answer me now. If you don't have it here, you can bring it to me later, but I'd like to understand that before we bring any of these easements, recommendations for easements to come back.
If I could just say one thing.
Sure.
Board changes, the frequency with which the governing board changes of the water management district, or this board, or any third-party conservation land trust, any of those boards, makes more of a case for the need to put permanent layers of, multiple layers of protections in place. That it makes a case for that, but we can talk about that further. When we come back and bring the specific conservation easements to you on a particular property, I anticipate we will answer any of these questions in briefings and bring that to the board as part of the presentation.
All right, and the other thing I'd like to make sure that you do, I know we have a lot of different stakeholders, and the business community did reach out to me on this item. I don't think they were fully informed as exactly what it was, but they have had asked that they be reached out to. So Economic Council, Chambers of Commerce, the traditional, I think, stakeholders there. And if there's other, obviously you guys do a great job communicating with the environmental groups and allowing them to weigh in. So I think that's covered, and then potentially the ag interests as well.
I would be happy to do that. This doesn't really directly affect them because of the purpose of the lands, but we will go have that conversation.
They're part of our community, and they've expressed they have interest in this. So,
Thank you, Commissioner. Vice Mayor Marino.
I was just going to make the motion to adopt a resolution, so. But I know that Commissioner Barnett has his light on. But I will make the motion, and I'll appreciate a second.
Yes, we are.
And I'll
yes,
second.
we are. Yes, we just
Oh,
hold
I got
on
a second from future
still-
Senator Bernard.
Commissioner Barnett, you're recognized.
No, if there isn't a second, I'd be happy to second
Oh, you
it.
want to do the second?
But
Okay.
I had a question.
Sure, no, go ahead.
With regards to these natural areas and the binding or potentially binding of future boards, if that's even possible, if priorities change in 25 years, and imposing additional layers of protection, would it be possible with regards to the process to require a supermajority vote similar to what is required for allowing development in areas with overlays? In case, these permanent protections in 30 years no longer become so permanent. Is that something that would require a change in the code or the law?
So if I understand what you're asking, that in order to release the easement, well, we wouldn't be able to release the easement. It's really would be up to the grantee to do that. So, I mean, we could. I just don't think that's necessary. Like once this easement is put in place, it's forever, right? That's the goal. That's the intent. It's in perpetuity. We, as the county, can't have a supermajority vote to say, we no longer want this easement in place. It will be in place in perpetuity.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Barnett. And soon to be Senator Bernard.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Just want to let everyone know I do have a Solid Waste Authority meeting on Wednesday, zoning on Thursday, and then we have a workshop next week. So
you're not leaving today?
I want to.
Solid Waste Authority needs you.
But just want to make sure I have a quick question for the county attorney. Just in case, like if we do the easement and let's say the organization folds or they want to transfer that easement, just is there a way that we can at least have some type of notice or have us to be able to?
So yes, we are proposing that if they want to assign the easement to another conservation entity, that they would have to provide us notice, and we would bring it to the board, and the board would have to approve the assignment.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
That's what we're asking for.
Did you already put that in there? It's not. Okay, all right. Okay. All right, we have no other further questions or comments. We have a first from Vice Mayor Marino to recommend this and a motion to adopt. Do we have a second? We have a second by Commissioner Bernard. All those for. Anybody opposed? See that it passes unanimously. Got a unanimous vote. 7-0. And Commissioner Weiss has something to say, though.
I was just going to ask if we could have a break for lunch.
Let's discuss this for a minute. We have, and thank you very much, everybody, for being here for that. Appreciate it. We have an add-on for the temporary waiving of permit fees, which may not take a lot of time. We also have the community services. And then, yes, we have the reorder. Shall we do the permit fees so that we can, no, wait a minute. Let's be consistent. Who wants to eat lunch? You want to take a break for lunch? No, okay. Could somebody bring Commissioner Weiss lunch? And you could eat it right here. If somebody would bring a pizza in here, we would be so happy. So shall we move right on? We're going to move right on. And move right on. Is that okay with everybody? Knowing that I get a little mean when I get hungry. So I got my candy bars. All right, so let's do this. Let's go on to 5E1. Okay. I have wait a minute. Hold on, everybody. We just did 5D1 on page 96. Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, Mayor. You did pull a couple of items from consent.
Correct.
Are you going to take those items first and then move on?
Well, I was thinking of and I'm open to this. I'm thinking of doing the community services on the regular agenda, and then the permit motion on the permits, and then doing the consent. However, I could do those matters on consent, and I'm looking at my colleagues, not looking at the audience, looking at my colleagues. What's the appetite of the? Okay, so we'll do the. Vice Mayor says do the consent first.
And the
Consent.
airports are here. That's going to go quickly too. We don't need to hold them.
Who's that?
Airport.
Airports.
I mean,
Okay, it's been a long day. It's been a long day.
Mayor,
So that's, yes.
consent is fine if that's what you want to do, but then we need to go back to the agenda order.
Okay.
So
I'll
we
be
need
good.
to start with the airport
I'll be
item
good.
after
Right.
we do consent.
So we can't do the airports first. Well, if we
No,
do
we can't.
consent, we're going to do the consent.
That's fine.
And then we'll go back to the regular order of the agenda.
Right.
Of the regular agenda. Okay. Okay, so let's do that. Let's go back to consent, which we had, I had pulled. And I'm going to find those numbers. I have them here. I believe they were, so those
Madam
Okay.
Mayor, we'll do,
On the consent agenda that that I pulled, I believe it was 3E and 3F. So if we could have the staff, if they're here, for 3E on the consent agenda. And the vice mayor pulled 3G as well. All right, so let's go first to 3 on the consent agenda. Let's go to 3E. And I'm looking for the page number. That would be page 17.
3E9, page 30.
Okay, very good. We're now on page 30, at the top of page 30, 3E9. We have staff here. Is everybody on the same page? Okay, very good. Well, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you for waiting so long. We appreciate it. And did you want to say a little bit? I'm sure you do after all this time on this issue.
This item was on the consent agenda. Staff does not have a presentation. It's just the approval of our contract with the financially assisted assistance with Gulfstream Goodwill Industries for the operation of our homeless resource centers.
Okay, are they here today? Goodwill?
They were here earlier.
They were here earlier, but is there anybody here from Goodwill? Well, let me tell you the reason why I pulled him. I want to be sure that the monies that we approve for financial assistance with Gulfstream Goodwill Industries is used for the homeless. Period. Right? We have a new word in our vocabulary for community services, and that's homeless. And I know, Dr. Green, you and I have spoken about this, Tammy, you and I, and this is a big issue. I wish they were here. I'm not going to not approve this because they're not here, but I want to see them in my office as soon as possible. Okay? I love resource centers. I love all the counseling that we do. We have homeless, and we need to address the needs, which is housing, not counseling, housing for the homeless. So I am very adamant on all our nonprofits that we give money to or we allow federal assistance to. See, I'm hungry, so I'm a little bit strident. I apologize. But this is, if there's ever an issue to get passionate about, it's this. So you give the message to Goodwill and all these nonprofits that are on our consent agenda. I'm sorry they're not here. We had a long day. But it would have been nice if somebody had been here. So they're going to come and see me, and they're welcome to see my partners here in the dais. We have a challenge that we need to address, and we need to address it today. And Goodwill, as well as the other nonprofits, are there to help us. I want to make sure that they are there to help us as we allow them further financial assistance. Okay, and that's the message from the mayor. Does anybody else wish to address anything on this at this time?
No, but I'll make the motion to approve it if you like, Mayor.
It's okay, yeah.
So let me actually clarify. I am making the motion to approve 3E9. There's no A and B.
All those for? Anybody opposed? I am. The record reflect that. See that it passes 6-1. Okay, thank you. Did I pull 3E10 as well?
Yes.
Good. Okay, good. Is the Unified Homeless Grant Contract for the Florida Department of Children and Families, are they here?
No.
This is money coming out of the state.
Yes.
Right. And
Money we're receiving.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Tammy.
This is money that we're receiving.
That the county is receiving, and we have to match it for $113,000. And we are, through this grant, 250 individuals and 200 families are going to be served. I want to be sure that that will provide housing, not counseling, not prevention services, but I want to see roofs over people's heads for this money. Some of it is a grant, some of it is county money. I want to be sure. So if you could give them the message, come see me and any other commissioner here. We've got a challenge, and we need to meet that challenge. These are folks who are good at that, and so I want to make sure that that they're going to be part of our solution to the problem. So if there's a first.
I'll second it.
By Vice Mayor Marino's a first, second by Commissioner Baxter's. All those for, anybody against? The mayor is against. It passes 6-0. Did I pull anything else? Let me see, 3E and 310, I think that's it. And I did, Vice Mayor, did you pull something? Okay, so the Vice Mayor, thank you very much. The Vice Mayor pulled 3G2. What page is that? 38. Page 38? Very good. All right. We could have staff come up. And this is on a motion to approve a negotiated settlement offer in the amount of $52,000, full satisfaction of a code compliance lien against Blue Mango Properties. Go right ahead, staff. Thank you for waiting all this time.
Sherry Brown, Director of OFMB. This was a property that the renters called and complained to code enforcement in 2019. Code enforcement will be able to talk about the specifics of it, but I'll just go high level as far as that code enforcement went out. Blue Mango bought the property at some point after that call, but they bought it knowing that there were code issues. And it took until 2023 for all the different violations to be cleaned up. So I'll let code maybe go into some of the specifics as far as what they saw.
Good afternoon, Michelle Pagan, Director of Code Enforcement, and what I'll do is I'll just go over a brief outline of when the investigation started. We received a complaint 8/26/2019 in August 2019, and officers went out there. There were initially 11 violations, one of which was rescinded. It was cited in error, came down to 10 violations. The complaint was of a infestation, rodent infestation, bug infestation, mold, a smell of sewer, inoperable vehicles, very common types of complaints that we received. We made contact with the property owner as well as the tenants, and within 2.5 months, 6 of the violations were addressed and closed. There were 4 outstanding violations still, one of which involved an inoperable vehicle that ultimately delayed compliance because that tenant left the vehicle behind. The property owner attempted to tow the vehicle, remove it from the property, but tow companies would not remove it due to the ownership, and that the property owner didn't have the title on that vehicle. So in between there, we then had COVID. And during that time, in April 2020, affidavit of non-compliances were held, understanding the dynamic of the time. And that was given, the property owner was given additional time for basic property maintenance issues. And that was the open storage, which is, again, a very common issue we have for landlord-tenant responsibilities. In 2020, an affidavit of non-compliance was issued, and the property owner, who we have been in communication with as recent as this morning, established an open line of communication now with the supervisor for that area. And then in 2023, it seems like a lot of time went by there, but it actually was within a very short time. Site visits were done, and the property had come into compliance with all of the violations.
Any other questions or comments at this time? Vice Mayor Marino.
I think staff knows that I hate when we negotiate down on these things, because I don't want people out there to think that they can just be in violation and then, the cost of doing business is a settlement. I hope that the owners here who have multiple properties don't allow code violations to continue on their properties. They don't endanger the folks that are living in their properties. And I was just not happy that, in fact, some of the violations were in place in the first place. I mean, I'm not going to use a term that I used in my agenda review. It would be improper. But, instances like this are, we're not going to take anybody's house, but if they're homesteaded. But instances where there are violations that are health related, they need to be taken care of immediately and not continue. And I realize we've come to terms, you all have come to terms with the owners of the property, but in the future, I think it's important, if they're non-homesteaded properties and there are health issues on them, we need to get them into compliance immediately or as quickly as possible. And if they're not, and it just goes on, then we should use any means possible, because we're talking about housing for folks. We're talking about people feeling safe in their homes, not worrying whether the toilet is running or if they have electricity or if there's mold or rats or critters. So I just pulled this because I didn't want it to just go under consent and not have a comment. So I appreciate you all being here, and I appreciate the owners working with you as of this morning. But this is just a shout out to everybody who owns property and rents it out. The folks that live in those properties are entitled to be in a clean, safe environment. And no matter who's in there, that should be for everybody. So I will make the motion to approve the negotiated settlement. Again, not happy about it, but I will make the motion.
Okay, do we have a second?
No.
Second from Commissioner Bernard. All those for?
Madam
Anybody
Mayor,
opposed?
let me just weigh in just real quick.
Sure, go right ahead.
I know that, Sherry, we've been at this for 8 years, and I know that it's very difficult for you to agree on these deals, and kind of like, 7 commissioners have different standards, and, I just know that, seeing that it's a 40% settlement, that your staff worked really hard to try to come up with something that's reasonable, and, I appreciate the hard work, and, we're always trying to weigh in on how to do these settlements, but thanks for your staff and your hard work to try to come up with a conclusion. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Commissioner Baxter, you have something to say?
I'll just make it brief. I just wanted to say thank you as well, and had a quick question for Whitney and everyone. The code enforcement stuff we covered in the workshop and we had voted on, is that all in place now?
We are working on implementing most of that, yeah, like doing the injunctions and some cease and desist and having more touches with some of these.
I guess I meant more so redefining where everyone is and how we are going to become code compliant.
We are transitioning to code compliance. We have changed the name. We are still working on the background of, working with HR on changing job titles and all of those things. But we are officially code compliance with contractors regulation as a sub.
Do we have an estimated date of when it'll be completely implemented?
We're hoping by January of next year.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I have something to say. We are now code compliance rather than code enforcement, I believe. And I want to tell you all about an incident that occurred in my neighborhood. I don't have an HOA, where sort of a cantankerous fella had an issue with his code, his property coming up to code. And I want to say that our officers have been very patient with him. And knowing that he's a widower and that he lives alone on property, and they have really been very, very kind because our officers want to help him to get up to speed, and he should. He should absolutely be up to speed. But it is rare in government to find officers who are understanding. First, we violate them, okay, but then we help them to get back into compliance. So you're looking at this in terms of resolving the issue and not making it worse over time. And I appreciate it very much for what you all have been doing, and I've heard that you do it with others as well. And I appreciate that so much because we're all Palm Beach County, and some folks have a hard time getting everything up to speed. And so it takes a little time, a little effort, and the effort that you didn't have to do, but you did, makes such a difference in the lives of so many people of Palm Beach County. Thank you for what you do. I think we have a first and a second. We're ready for the vote. All those for. Anybody opposed? See that it passes unanimously, 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. So moving right on, I think we should take a vote on the consent agenda as, or no, we're all set. We already took all the votes. We're now on the regular agenda, which is 5. Commissioner Weiss, you're amazing. You're able to eat and talk at the same time. Tell me what to do. That's such a 5A1. No, wait a minute. No. We are now on 5A1. And we have staff still here? Very good.
Mayor, may I make the motion to approve 5A1, A, B, and C?
Let's just, does anybody wish to have a report from the airports? See none? That's okay. It's okay. All those, and we have a first, we have a second by Commissioner Woodward. All those for. Anybody opposed? See that it passes unanimously, 7-0. Thank you very much for staying all this time as well. Now, I believe we are on, correct me if I'm wrong, which I know you all will, 5E1, 5B1, which is found on page 86. Very good. Okay. 5B1. And we have staff here. Thank you for waiting all this time as well. Appreciate it. Very good. Okay. You go right ahead. Unless we have, go ahead.
It's District 2.
Weiss? Commissioner Weiss?
Thank you, Mayor. I don't require a presentation. Does anyone else here? No.
I think we've
Okay.
been well
Yeah, I think
versed and briefed on this.
Yep. And so I'd like to go ahead and make a motion to approve item 5B1, A and B.
Very good. We have a first by Commissioner Weiss, second by Commissioner Woodward. All those for. With one abstention. I'm sure she'll come back and vote with it. Yeah, she's with us. Okay. 7-0. 7-0. Thank you very much.
She's right there.
5. We're okay? Okay, good. Okay, I guess it would be now 5B2. 5B2, and it's A. And can we do A and B, Madam County Attorney? Okay. We have 5B2A and B, and I see a first from Commissioner Weiss, the only one who's eating at this time, let the record reflect. And I have a second from Commissioner Baxter, a little levity here, a little levity. All those for, anybody opposed, see that it passes unanimously, 7-0. Okay, I think we've done 5. Now we're looking on to 5B3, and we have A, B, and C.
I think do we have cards?
We have cards. Okay, very good. Then, and just want to make sure that we can do all A, B, and C in one vote. So let's have should we have the staff report first? If you'd like to, staff, or should we continue? Okay, let's go right on to the cards.
All right. Dan Waleski, followed by Nathan Rich, followed by Ken Metcalf.
Okay, sir, you're recognized.
Thank you. My name is Dan Waleski. Thank you, commissioners, staff, everyone. This is the team here for Waterview Apartments. So all the cards that you read are members of our team. Joseph Glucksman, Nathan Rich, and Ken Metcalf, the town manager for Mangonia Park, is here to support us as well. We just thank you guys for the consideration. We're excited to bring this to the town of Mangonia Park in Palm Beach County, and looking forward to being a partner. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Who would like to speak next on behalf of this? Come on up, state your name.
Yeah, this is Nathan Rich, president of Sun Foundation. So really just want to say thank you, everyone, board commissioners, county staff, of course, town of Mangonia Park for all the approvals, and this whole process has obviously been a lot. So thank everybody, and we're excited, and we're looking forward to delivering this to Mangonia Park.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Sir?
Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commission, Ms. Baker, just want to thank staff and the Commission for this. This is going to go a long way. Obviously, it's a great project, and it's going to benefit the town as well. And on a personal note, Commissioner Bernard, thank you for everything that you've done for Mangonia Park and the county. That's all. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Sir?
Joe
you
Glucksman.
filled out a card, but you haven't placed it with us yet?
I have, and I could pass it up if you'd like.
No, you will after you speak. Go right ahead. Give us your name.
Joseph Glucksman. I'm president of McCurdy Senior Housing Corp. I do housing, affordable housing, but I couple it with supportive services. We're the owners and operators of Quiet Waters out in Belle Glade, an affordable housing community for seniors, our population that needs the assistance the greatest, in my opinion. And by the way, we're also a 50% homeless set-aside project.
Good. Very good. Thank you, sir.
I just want to let you know that I'm involved in this project 110%. I believe in it. I think it's a great project. It's going to provide housing for our most vulnerable population, again, seniors, very low and moderate income. It's going to be a state-of-the-art facility. It's going to provide a wide range of supportive services designed to bring the seniors to a more independent state.
Very good.
And with that, I would urge you guys to approve this item.
Very good. Thank you. Now you can pass it over to staff. We'll have your card. Is there anybody else? We have any other cards? All right. Any questions or comments by members of the board? Seeing none, we do have Commissioner Bernard.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I'll make a motion to approve item 5B, 3A, B, and C.
Very good. And we have a second from Commissioner Baxter. All those for. Anybody opposed? See that it passes unanimously, 7-0. As usual, you did a great job. Thank you very much. Okay, very good. Moving on now to 5B, 5B4, A, B, and C. All right, very good. And we have the same staff. We have been briefed on this. Would anybody here like to hear a staff presentation in addition to our briefing? Seeing none, do we have any questions or comments by members of the board?
Madam Mayor, I make a
None?
motion
Yes, sir.
to approve item 5B, 4A, B, and C.
Very good. And I have a second by the vice mayor. All those for. Anybody opposed? See that it passes unanimously, 7-0.
Thank you.
Very nice.
Mayor?
Yes, go right ahead.
Yeah,
Commissioner.
I know we don't need a presentation, but I think it's really important that we let the community know what we approved. And this is a really it's an amazing program you all are bringing to Palm Beach County. So if you just take a minute and explain what we just did.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Commissioner. So the board just approved a few different things, but I'll talk about the bonds. These are the first housing bond items that you conceptually approved that have come back to the board now for final approval. So we're excited about the board's, the housing bond dollars, Commissioner Bernard, all the effort that you put into that program. We're excited to bring those items back to the board for final approval. And now we're looking for the next stage of those housing units being created. And then the last thing the board approved was an heirs property grant so we can apply to the Federal Home Loan Bank, and potentially with that grant, we will be able to help individuals with wills and clearing property titles so we can preserve existing housing units in the county for those whose titles are clouded.
And just additionally, if we are awarded the grant, we are getting ready to roll out, the community education so that everybody knows in all portions of the community. So we're working on that diligently in hopes we're awarded.
What areas of the community are you working on with that? You said you're working with all areas of the community. Are you talking about this particular spot?
No,
Mango-
it's going to be countywide in
Okay.
eligible census tracts
Okay.
per the grant.
Excellent, thank you.
And we have some cities that are already interested in also securing dollars to be a part of a much larger project.
Excellent, thank you, Ms. Brown. Any other questions, Commissioner Weiss?
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, very good, thank you. Okay, correct me if I'm incorrect. I think we're ready now to 5E1.
5C1.
5C1. Let me find it. Okay. Yes, there it is. Very good. 5C1. Ismi, are you alone on this one? Okay, very good. Very good. All right. Now, do we have, does anybody wish to have a presentation after we've already been briefed on this?
Mayor?
Yes, sir.
If nobody wants a presentation, I'd like to make a motion to approve Amendment Number 4 to the Developer and Operator Agreement, R 2021-0148 Agreement with the West Palm Beach Housing Authority for the Prosperity Village Cottage Homes Project to modify the rent structure for the first 2 years of operations and extend the project schedule.
Very good. Do we have a second?
Second.
By Commissioner Baxter. Are those for? Anybody opposed? See that it passes unanimously, 7-0. Thanks for all you've done today, Isami. Okay, now we're looking at 5C2.
Mayor, since
Nope, we've done that one. I'm not even going to say that. Delete that. That's off record. Moving right on to, right on. To help me out here, 5D. 5. Now we're on to 5E1. Very good. And this is on the very last 2 pages.
5D, can I have a?
What's that? Okay, so we are now on 5E1, and I think we should do individually, Ms. Kaufman, because these are budget transfers, or what do you suggest? On 5E1, A, B, C, D, and E.
They don't have to be individual.
Okay, then we'll take them all together. So I'd like to hear a little bit about this. So go right ahead, whoever's going to give us a 4-minute.
4
Go
minutes,
right
okay.
ahead. Yes,
We'll try
ma'am.
and do this as
Tammy.
expeditiously as possible. Good afternoon, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioners. I'm Tammy Fields, Assistant County Administrator. Also at the table are John Hulick, Dr. James Green, and Taruna Mahaltra from Community Services Department. We do have a presentation that I believe all of the commissioners have in front of you. What we're here to do today is to get the approval of the behavioral health and substance use disorder plan for 2024. Just to highlight some of our past work, and I won't go through all of them, but the county first had a plan in 2017 as an opioid response plan, and we have the settlement agreement. The opioid settlement agreement was signed in 2022, and the board approved a plan in 2022 with that settlement agreement in place, and this, now we're at the point of doing our 2024 plan. It's really important to understand that this plan is not just about the opioid settlement dollars. That's a part of it. This is about the board's priorities of behavioral health and substance use disorders, and it's all included within this plan.
I think, could I have a couple of questions
Sure.
at this time, Tammy, if you could? Is this the use of the opioid funds that we received from the government after, not from the government,
Right.
but from the lawsuit.
Yes, it is.
Money did we receive as
Over,
a county over, I think it was over 13 years, 125 million?
that's the approximate, over 18 years, that's.
Is it 18, not 13
It's 18.
years?
18.
18 years, and how much do we get over 18 years?
It's approximately 125 million.
125 million. So this is about use of those opioid funds to, and do we have regular, you're an attorney, so I feel comfortable asking you these questions. What are the requirements for use of these funds that were awarded to the county because of the losses that people have suffered from opioid addictions?
This lawsuit and the funds that Palm Beach County is receiving is a result of the losses that have been suffered
Yes.
by local governments in treating the opioid crisis. There is a separate lawsuit, class action lawsuit that has been filed on behalf of individuals that is still in litigation. It's been to the Supreme Court and now back down.
So this is the monies that we are receiving, 125 million, is to repay governments, city and county governments, because and hospitals, I would imagine, because it's almost like the tobacco thing. Tobacco litigation, very similar to the tobacco litigation, and that though it's a little more money than the tobacco, that we used to help resolve these opioid addiction issues within the government and or hospitals. Is that about where it's at?
Almost. And as an attorney, I have to be specific in this. What was awarded to local governments and state governments is funds acknowledging that there was an effect on local governments, but is for the abatement of opioid use going forward. So it
Should
can't
we
be a
not-
reimbursement to us for funds we've spent in the past. It is specific of how we're going to spend funds in the future on a continuum of things from prevention all the way through treatment. And what we presented to the board in the workshop in May is that the committee that the board has appointed has suggested that we spent 90% of the dollars received on the social determinants of health, and that is all of those things that are surrounding an individual who is dealing with a substance use issue, as well as just making sure that they can build resiliency, and then 10% of it on the treatment.
This is what concerns me, is exactly what you said. I'm glad you brought it up. Only 10% of this money is going to be used for those for deep end crisis. 90% is going to be used on environmental issues as to why people got involved in opioids. I don't want to take up a lot of time now, but I would like to see a meeting maybe with all of you and myself and anybody else who would like to have a meeting with you, because I don't like to see misdirection of these funds. I also question having people paying people for a position for a financial analyst and $177,000 for personnel. I question why it is that the bulk of this money is not going to help those who are in a crisis mode. That's all. And I don't want to belabor the point now, but I would request a meeting, because I hate to hire people, and a lot of this is only 10% is going towards helping those who are in deep crisis mode with regard to an opioid addiction. But we can resolve that later than right now. Commissioner Baxter?
Mayor, would you like to postpone this item, or you just want to wait for
I
a
think
meeting?
y'all need it now, right? But I don't like it. I just don't like the idea of hiring people, spending money hiring people. looking at it in an environmental strategies. I know what the environment is, and I'd like to, to have the monies, more percentage of the money go into helping the people who have this addiction, or at least in crisis mode. 10% is not enough for me. So I'm not going to vote for it today, but if y'all want to go along with it, that's fine. It's at the end of the day. I don't want to belabor the point. But I just don't like us. I've been through this before, and I don't like hiring people and budget analysts when I've got kids out there with opioid addiction that maybe we could get a little more deep dive, maybe a little more money to help those people with that addiction.
May I ask?
Sure.
The 90% of this going to social determinants, it's all mostly just determining the problem.
No. It is addressing things like employment, housing. Housing is a huge aspect of it. Prevention, those things that are supporting those individuals who have gone through or are about to go through those deep end services, but making sure that they have the surrounding supports. If you have an individual who goes through treatment, and the term is treat and street, if you go through treatment and then put them back out on the street and there isn't any supports around them.
The wraparound services?
The wraparound services, absolutely. And just to clarify on the positions, those are coming out of the allocation of the administrative costs that are allowed under the settlement agreement. They're not coming out of the funds that will be expended on programs.
It's just, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, maybe it could have been worded a little differently, be a little more clear, because I do agree overall with the mayor that 90% just going towards what she had referenced doesn't make a lot of sense. But I do think if it is truly going to the wraparound services of the opioid and addiction problem, that is a much needed focus. So thank you.
Absolutely.
I want to be sure that when you said housing, will 90% of this money go towards providing a house with the wraparound services for those who suffer from opioid addiction?
Housing would be part of that 90%.
So 90% will go, and you and I are talking the same thing. I just want to make sure this will help pay for a roof over somebody's head and wraparound services for someone with an opioid addiction.
Could
Okay,
I
very
point
good.
of
Thank
order?
you. Ms. Baker? I'm sorry.
I would like to actually have the presentation, and then we could ask, because I have questions also.
Oh, okay.
But I know there's a number of slides in here that I think would answer some of this, and I would appreciate the full presentation. Please.
Okay. You can go. Oh,
Yeah.
click it, okay.
No, it's in the urban.
All right, I already mentioned the milestones. So looking at this slide, this is actually some of the good news of the work that the Board of County Commissioners and staff has done up to this point in time. Palm Beach County was really ahead of the game as far as jumping in with the opioid plan and addressing these needs. And so if you look at the chart, you see the significant decrease in the number of opioid calls. Yeah, we did have a spike in 2020, expected with the other things that were going on in 2020, but we are definitely showing a decrease, and we're also showing a decrease in the number of suicides in our community. At the bottom, you'll see the number of calls, and this is an area where we still want to make sure we're recognizing that there are a lot of calls that are coming in seeking assistance, and so this plan will lay out some of the ways we will be planning to address those calls that are coming in and being able to connect people with services. The next slide is just how these services fall within the state priorities. And then we get right into the plan that the board addressed during the workshop. And as I mentioned, this plan goes beyond just the opioid settlement dollars. We will be discussing those in just a moment, but it is to address all of what the board has established as that priority in behavioral health and substance use disorders. Going on to the mission and vision, I'm going to go really quickly and just focus on a few words in here, is that we want to make sure we are focusing on individual person-centered and recovery-oriented care, making sure we've got an integrated and coordinated services, and that no matter where a person calls first to seek help, that there is no wrong door, that our systems are working together in order to make sure needs are going to be addressed. And one of the big factors that we're going to be looking at is making sure we're looking at how we build resiliency in addressing the risk factors. I'm not going to go over all of the overarching priority recommendations, as these are the ones that we presented to the board back in our workshop. But if we go ahead to slide 9, this is where we really are addressing the social determinants of health, and where we're looking at education, access, and quality, economic stability, social and community context, neighborhood and built environment, and healthcare access and quality. Those all make up the social determinants of health. And that is the recommendations also from the Center for Disease Control and Prevention is looking at that overall person-centered approach. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Green to talk about some of the specifics as it relates to the opioid settlement recommendations.
All right, thank you, Tammy. Good afternoon. So I'd like to start by just highlighting that this item is really centered around approving just the master plan and the proposed allocations of the settlement funding. And the recommendations that we're going to share, they're closely aligned with the objectives that are outlined in the master plan. So it's important to note that this item doesn't include any contracts, that all future contracts will come back before the board, and all of the specifics regarding those contracts will be shared during that time as well. And so now I'll just share some of the recommendations from the opiate settlement for those dollars. The first is the essential services. We really recommend that vital services such as housing, peer supports, enhanced coordination, which includes a flex fund, that is a part of our recommendation, because the COSAP grant, which is a pilot initiative that we published on 3 different times with Florida Atlantic University, has shown remarkable success, and we want to be able to expand that type of model. It also focuses on stable housing, and so what we'd like to do is to ensure that there's stable, permanent housing for individuals who have mental health and substance use disorders, particularly those who are in foster care or aging out, seniors with fixed income, and certainly the housing first model is something that we want to continue to emphasize. Also, with housing development coordination, we want to suggest that collaborating with the Department of Housing and Economic Development, municipalities, and others on various funding sources that are available to enhance housing development for individuals and families dealing with mental health and substance use disorders is important. And so we want to utilize a portion of these dollars, recommend utilization to develop housing. Neutral care coordination, we recommend that establishing a neutral care coordinating entity that prioritizes client choice and provides more of a tailored treatment and recovery support system or recommendations. This enhanced coordination is expected to reduce the need for more intensive services, enabling individuals to succeed in their recovery with ongoing supports that we're hoping to develop in the community and continue to develop. Also, the syringe exchange program is one of the recommendations. So we have seen tremendous success with syringe exchange, and that is something that we are recommending that we expand. MAT treatment expansion, we propose that medication-assisted treatment for individuals with substance use or co-occurring disorders, particularly those targeting high-need populations such as pregnant and parenting women, transportation and employment. We're recommending that enhancing transportation and employment opportunities for individuals with mental health issues, substance use disorders, and co-occurring disorders, that is something that we include. We certainly want to continue our efforts to raise awareness about issues, and so a public awareness campaign that's fostering recovery-ready communities, making sure that we're promoting overall wellness and resilience is one of the recommendations. Community education initiatives, where we're proposing to create and support educational initiatives for at-risk youth and adolescents, particularly those with adverse childhood experiences, and ensuring that our service providers are trauma-informed. Research and quality improvement is another area that we're recommending. We are looking to expand our capacity for research, data analysis, performance evaluation, implementation, and quality assurance and improvement initiatives. And we're also developing kind of standards of care to enhance our program quality. And then early recognition. It's really important that we move further upstream. I believe that it's crucial to increase the number of individuals and families who can recognize early signs of mental health and substance use disorders. And so that is included in our recommendations as well. And so what I'd like to do now is just turn it over to John Hewlick, and he'll elaborate on that a bit more and then talk about some of the funding allocations that we're recommending.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good to be with you all again today. We'll get a little bit deeper dive now in terms of our work, and the committee has really supported the county's ongoing efforts to measure our initiatives through a resilience or recovery capital framework, we call it, and its ability to capture resilience, health, well-being, social determinants of health, and risk factors. All of these collective and collaborative efforts prior and into the future have been have directly impacted our planning, our development, our execution of this very comprehensive, person-centered, recovery-oriented system of care. We have operated under a systems model before you, an ecosystem now that was initially developed in the early days, 2019. It's been modified since. It integrates what we know as ASAM, or the American Society of Addiction Medicine criteria. Its 6 dimensions. It's been modified. There's been 3rd and 4th editions. So we're trying to take current information and bodies of work and making sure that we're current in our work here in Palm Beach County. It also integrates the definition, long-standing definition approved by the Federal Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. And you see the definition before you. I won't read it, but it is certainly rooted in that definition, and in particular, the 4 major dimensions that support a life in recovery. What we really know is social determinants of health. Health, home, community, and purpose. And their agency, SAMHSA's recognition of resilience as being a key component of recovery. And it also, at its root and at its core, is what we call recovery capital or resilience capital, and the 3 domains of recovery capital that we measure, and we're able to literally measure lifetime, personal, social, and cultural domains. Next slide. As we've mentioned, we do use this resilience or recovery capital indexing to measure risk and resilience, which provides a comprehensive picture of a person's whole well-being, while also providing us a collective set of data. So what you see before you is a collective set of data since the inception and deployment of this particular survey. And that's over 12,000 responses. And so over this period of time, we know collectively over this period, the greatest risk factors are financial well-being, employment, housing and living, transportation, access to healthcare. These are all barriers for a lot of us, but in particular for the populations that we're serving. These are particular barriers that often, if not addressed, regularly if not addressed, lead to renewed uses, which is clearly an outcome that we want to avoid. We also focus on resilience. What are the internal and external capacities? So it's important not just to look at risk, but also what are they reporting to us in terms of their strengths, and that is sense of purpose, of beliefs, a set of values, spirituality, safety. Interesting enough, if I feel safe in my environment, that is predictive of a positive outcome. I want to say too about the survey instrument. It's more than just a survey; it's a platform. It allows the providers and staff that are utilizing it to communicate with individuals. Engagement is a predictor, so that is not just an engagement in a group setting. It is light touches. It is an engagement in a recovery community center. It is as simple as this, as staff do at our centers, a quick text to an individual. How was your day? Hard to measure, but major impact. So we drill into data, but we deploy it in a way that's really person-centered.
Thank you, sir. I'm going to recognize Commissioner Baxter.
Oh, yes.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm sorry. My question is not for you. I just I do need to leave, and we're only halfway through this presentation, and I have several things that I would like to cover that were under appointments and comments. Do you mind if we take this a little out of order? Because I am going to have to go.
Ms. Baker?
Yeah.
Did you want to, let me ask you, Commissioner, we're going to vote on this. Now, did you want to?
I support this, so
Okay.
when this is done, absolutely. And I also support 5F1, which is waiving the permitting fees.
Permitting for the mill.
For the people who are affected by the tornado.
I don't think we can take your votes now, but I appreciate that you're giving us your support.
Please.
Your opinion on these things, and you're certainly excused when you need to be.
I appreciate that. Would you mind if I reappoint Mary Lou Bedford?
Oh, is that for the very end?
Yes, I had a.
Is that?
I had a few things I was hoping we would get to before I left today, but unfortunately, it doesn't seem
Okay.
that's going to be the case.
All right. Does anybody have, well, you know what? Maybe you could have somebody else make that appointment on your behalf. When we get
Well, I
to
had
that
that,
point.
and I wanted to kind of discuss with you. I thought you might have some
I
questions
know, I
on
have
the
your letter.
RFP and the vocational. We'll do that
Right,
maybe
we'll
the
do
next
that when you're
meeting.
here personally, but I think the appointment of your person could be done by another commissioner, if you can find someone to do it.
Okay, I will
Okay?
ask future Senator-elect Bernard
Yes,
to
of
do
course.
that.
Right.
But lastly, one of the comments that I thought I didn't want to put off from today was I wanted support from the board to actually rename a road to Senator
Let's
Mac
wait till-
Bernard. Yeah, I
Let's-
can't wait on that one.
You can't?
Well, that one, because it would be commissioner comments, we would have to vote on it.
We can wrap this up.
Yeah,
Is it, so you want to get that under, you want to do your commissioner comments at this time?
if we could.
And take the vote. Is there anybody who would be opposed to that at this time, particularly with regard to the road? Seeing none? Okay, go right ahead and you can
So,
reorder the
with
agenda again for that.
Support of my board, I would like to please direct staff to rename Sandcastle Boulevard to Senator Mac Bernard Way. Specifically, the renaming will occur from High Paluxo and Sandcastle Boulevard to Sandcastle Boulevard and Mentone Road. Do I need a second, or? I don't know
Sure.
whether-
I think, no, you. Mac, you are not going to second that motion, if you don't mind.
Make the motion.
We have a second by the vice mayor. All those for, you can vote for it, though. Anybody opposed to renaming of the road? I see that it passes unanimously. And I just want
Thank
to
you. I can save everything else for later,
I think you will.
and I will just leave him with my appointment to that board.
Very good, very good.
Thank you.
Google Maps will so note it as well. So, okay, Commissioner Baxter, you're excused.
Thank you.
Go ahead and proceed.
Yeah, thank you. And again, we can look at the data from a variety of different perspectives, not just from a resilience capital perspective, but also now through the lens of social determinants of health. So what you see here are the ability to create values through these social determinant of health lens. So at the top are the social, what we call the social determinant of health elements, but then the what we call indicators that are directly associated with the specific social determinant element. And what we then do are able to create values. So at the bottom, through these 12,000 responses, we now have a value not only direct to domains of recovery capital indexing, but also through the SDOH lens. And those value scores, we view it from 51 to 7, we consider a strengthened zone, and 71 and above as a reinforcement zone, and 0 to 50 were considered a build zone. So again, it's being able to know what our aims are and how we are then able to create value, and specific indicators. This last slide that we have here is, of course, September is Recovery Month. I know many of you likely participated in some of these events. We had 26 local community events. I believe nearly or more than 1,200 participants, very diverse groups, very diverse initiatives throughout the month. So it was an incredible month. And then I think it is James that you're going to take next steps, or?
I can. So our next steps, we're going to continue to work together to look at our outcomes and measures and start working on the release of our notice of funding opportunity and start looking at how we want to do our contracts and monitoring and make sure that we're working with the advisory committee in doing so. And then on the final page, what I'd like to do is to show you the Opiate Settlement Fund expense plan. And what we've done is we've taken the total amount and we've annualized this. And so you'll see the annual program appropriation total is $7.7 million, and then, or 7.8, and then we also have some interest that is accrued to about 1.6, bringing the overall total to about 9.3 million. And the expenditure categories that you see there, neutral care, 1.5 or 1.6 million, housing, transportation, employment, all those social determinants of health at 1.9, syringe service expansion at 500,000, community education and training at 3 million, and then our DPEN, which is at 10% for women, pregnant women, women with children. These are prioritized groups, but it's not exclusive to those groups, at 775,000, bringing the subtotal of 7.7 or 7.8 million, and taking the interest from this and transferring that to the Department of Housing and Economic Development so that we can use that to continue to build housing for individuals with mental health, SUD, and co-occurring disorders.
I know, I appreciate that, Dr. Green, and I appreciate the fact that when you were discussing the issues that are most important to folks in trying to go through recovery, it's security. We don't know. I didn't know that security was the #1 issue. I thought it'd be food. As I'm sitting here eating a good pizza, I thought it would be getting a fix, but it's security. And that's why these mini cottages, the most important thing in a mini cottage is the key to the front door. It's amazing. The key to the front door. So that when they can sleep, they sleep knowing that someone's not going to beat them up or accost them, steal their shoes.
Mayor, if I could add, and that is, through our work and our research with Florida Atlantic University, we have now 3 peer-reviewed articles through that, that recovery capital indicator lens. And we're in this field, we've never been able to isolate certain indicators that are predictive of outcome. I was as surprised as you were that safety was a predictor, and when I hear a biostatistician tell me I've never seen such strong relationships, my ears have to perk up a little bit, you know. So these are the types of things that we're developing. For example, and we know this, having health insurance is predictive of housing stability, which is predictive of long-term recovery. This is the kind of work that we're producing, you know, in not only my tenure, but with the support of the board all along, that set at the beginning a very clear aim. We're going to establish a person-centered, recovery-oriented system of care. And that's been long-standing, and we've just steadily but slowly but surely, you know, executed to the point that we are today.
Very good. Commissioner Woodward, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a few questions. First of all, are there any restrictions on the settlement dollars as to how we're allowed to spend them?
Yes, there are. And it does provide for a continuum. It is looking at substance use issues, but with an acknowledgement that there's co-occurring mental health issues as well. And then there are restrictions as far as the amount that can be spent on administrative costs.
Okay, but as far as we are allowed to use it for
Yes.
housing and some of the other, all of what's been mentioned, we're in the clear to use it.
Yes, we did align the recommendations with the core services that are allowed.
Okay, I thought so. Just wanted to double check. And then I know on page slide 12, you had mentioned some of the data, and we had discussed before having a data tracking system as far as when patients enter the system and they're handed off to something else. Are we going to be building out a very comprehensive, you know, we several of us were just in Dallas and we're very surprised at how they're tracking different segments of their population, and it's robust and they're getting great data from it, which of course is building future, you know, plans and solutions. So how are we going to do that?
Yeah. Yes, we will be through that. The focus is really on those 60, you know, there was 16,000 calls annually, 8,000 of which are categorized as crises, another 5,000 of individuals asking for services. Engagement is another predictor. You know, typically on that call, it's more of a cold referral. We expect people to navigate their care. So that is an incredible engagement moment that we want to triage. And those that are in most crises, if they haven't reached out directly to the healthcare district and the crisis center, you know, we're going to have that ability at a licensed professional level to make that assessment and begin at that point to make a level of care determination, but also then drive that care and monitor that care throughout the continuum, right into our non-clinical environment recovery community centers. Our contracts currently require that, our behavioral health contracts. So if you're in a treatment center, you have to conduct an indexing. You have to develop a recovery, individualized recovery plan along with a treatment plan. But we also then measure, have you successfully referred someone to a recovery community center? And that is accepting of all pathways to recovery. Personally, I'm in 38 years in recovery. If folks go into self-support and succeed, I'm very happy for them. But we just don't know about folks like me that contribute back to society. Here, we're going to be able to engage and assess and monitor care throughout a continuum.
Just also wanted to mention that we have reporting responsibilities to the state of Florida as well under the statute and the overall settlement agreement. So we have quarterly reporting that we have to provide to the state. And we are required to be updating how we're doing this on a yearly basis with the board. This plan is not intended to be a static plan at all. We don't know what drug is going to be out there in 3 years. Unfortunately, we've seen a whole lot of new drugs, and there may be different approaches that need to occur along the way. But we always want to make sure that it stays that person-centered method of care. But the plan specifically allows for flexibility and repeated reporting to the board and to the state of Florida and to our community through our advisory board.
And go ahead.
And if I add, we are going to work with our managing entity, healthcare district, and our existing systems. We are not going to create a new system, just to work with our existing systems and create a data integration model so that we can share the information.
Are you looking at my notes? Because I just wrote that down about what will our partnership be with the healthcare
Right.
district and how, because they're planning to do a central receiving facility, and how will this system integrate with what we're doing with these dollars?
We'll be bringing back the central receiving facility item to the board on the first meeting in December. But yes, there would be coordination with the healthcare district along the way, as well as Southeast Florida Behavioral Health Network.
Okay, and final question.
No, it's okay. Go right ahead.
The housing, is it specific for those in recovery, or that, because we need certain wraparound services for them specifically, and not, just other people who are in need of housing? Are these going to be units that are specific for those in recovery, or all housing?
No, it's not going to be all housing. It will be specific for those who have mental health, SUD, or co-occurring disorders. And we want to focus on permanent housing, but we also recognize the need for other forms of housing as well. And so it'll be a combination.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Commissioner. Commissioner Weiss and Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for taking the time for this presentation. It's always enlightening to hear. But my question is really a follow-up to Commissioner Woodward, and that is having to do with one of the things we had heard about, and I'm sure and you all talk about it, is that you can't just turn people out and put them on the street, and you mentioned it a little bit, Doctor, that there has to be a warm handoff. It can't be just, a referral alone is not going to be enough. You have to make that connection, and how are you planning to make sure that that's coordinated? How should I say you, but how does a plan take care of that?
And again, we talk about a mirroring of the COSAP intervention, which is housing supports, it's care coordination, it's peer support, and then there's a minimal recovery support services fund. Again, low cost, high impact. So the infusion of and making sure that we're integrating all those services. So when a person's engaged, they're not just going to mystically be referred and say, walk this journey alone. With the capacity of peer support, and the care coordination, both of those will keep a person engaged. Because we know from the research, again, I don't like to talk in linear terms and continuum, but that's the term where is acceptable. We know from the research in transition, we have a 7-day window. If we lose someone in that 7 days, we lose them. And again, for us, losing them to use, you all have testified in your own personal stories what the consequence of that is. So these initiatives are very intentional, Commissioner, to make sure that we're keeping people engaged. We're not, getting past these certain windows through peer support, through care coordination, through active engagement in clinical and non-clinical environments.
So part of, and again, with my colleagues questioning, but part of that is going to be the ability to have a system that can track this, right? So we can ensure that what we want to have happen is actually happening. And so I think that's, to me, I think is one of the real challenges, because they all work in different systems and not necessarily do they connect. Who's going to be who's responsible for that, making that connectivity? He's laughing.
That is certainly the challenge. It's not just in this particular system, but in others.
Right.
Is how do we build APIs and make sure that two systems are talking to each other, and that's something that we are having discussions about. And certainly we made some progress in that area, and we'll continue to move. I do want to also mention, we recognize that a number of people who are in our treatment facilities have a need for housing. They're leaving and they don't have stable housing to go to, and that affects their overall outcomes. And Part of what we're doing is working with our recovery residences and others to make sure that we can build capacity in that area. But we also want to make sure that there is a coordinated effort to, like as John mentioned, have community recovery centers available for them to continue to engage, have peer support, and people there to help them navigate the challenges of finding a job, navigate the challenges of working on their jobs if they're working, because that came out in the RCI, and many other things, connecting them to social capital and other things that we know are important for them to be successful in recovery. And so that is a part of our overall coordination plan.
So the last question I have for you is, unfortunately, people sometimes have challenges when they're going into recovery or when they're in recovery, and that can sometimes necessitate the need where the provider feels like they can't help them and they put them out. And I mean, that is probably one of the worst possible things you can do for somebody without support around them. I'm hopeful, I should say, or maybe it's more of a comment, that in your contracts that we require that those providers have to notify whoever, and if it's us or whoever the administering agent area is, that they get notified before those people get put, literally put on the street, and give opportunity for someone else to step in. I think that's, and I know you all know it's really important, but I think, whatever protections we can help to put in place so that that doesn't happen without the ability for someone else to step in and help that individual so they're not out there on their own. So,
Thank you, Commissioner.
thanks.
Vice Mayor Marino.
It's been a long day, and I'm not sure what I heard and what I didn't hear. But I did hear the word flexibility. And what you've got in front of us right now is a plan for 1 year, correct? And the reason I ask it that way is in year 2, we can see where we spent money in year 1, and we can flex it into different programs if something has more of a demand than we thought and something has less of a demand we're all tired, less of a demand than we thought. So I'm just making sure that this is flexible. It's a living, breathing document that when we see a need, we can change it if need be.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So the plan which James presented on this slide is a 1-year plan
Yeah.
for the spending, yeah.
Okay. And the deep end at 10%, I don't know, I know that there's been discussion about that over and over again, and that may be coming up. More of an amount of that will be needed in the future. So I know that you're taking 1.6 million, the interest, and putting it into housing, but let's make sure that we have a good number for the deep end.
Okay.
Thank you.
I have a question. The money that comes, does that go through the healthcare district, or do we get it?
County.
Healthcare
comes to-
district?
The county gets it.
We get it, okay. So I'm not going to ask you what portion of that's going into mini cottages. But I'm going to tell you that I know that it will. With the wraparound services in front of the cottages, so that if you have about 10 mini cottages, and about 5 or 6 support services right in front of it, that is proven to be the best way to tackle this. Is that a yes from y'all on terms of making that happen?
It is whatever the board desires.
Okay, well, I this is the only way that I have read, so you all know more than I do about it, to tackle opioid addiction is to have those wraparound services, which we have, and this is going to pay for. But not in a shelter or not in a recovery counseling center where they come in when they're hungry and leave when they're done and go sleep in the street. I want to be sure that we are looking at the monies that we will receive in the county to build the only way that it has been proven to help those with these addictions. Housing first, wraparound services right there, probably surrounded by a fence. Is that what we're talking about and when we're talking about these monies being put into this program?
The expenditures will all be coming back to the Board of County
No, I'm not
Commissioners.
asking, please, Tammy.
No.
I'm too tired and I don't need that answer. I think it may be appropriate, but not for what I'm asking. I want to be sure that the monies that I'm going to vote on today, that is really, and this was a tough litigation. People died from this. They're dying today. And I want to make sure that the one way that research has shown, and Mr. Green, you know this yourself, you just had a conversation a little bit ago about how it's working in other counties, housing first, wraparound services right there.
Yes.
Is that where we are committing some of these funds, not 100%, but some of
Yes,
these
they
funds
are.
for?
The answer is yes.
Is that
Yes.
correct?
And we have
Yes.
entertained a concept, what we call a recovery and wellness village that couples housing with, and really on the grounds infusing those types of supports.
Correct.
And we
So-
have had interest in pursuing that, whether it's in a cottage fashion or some other fashion, not only just in the recovery space, but more broadly in terms of neighborhood revitalization and community redevelopment. So,
Well, but I want every addict to have a house.
Yeah.
To have that key, right? Okay.
And the title of one of our published papers is "We Now Have the Key to Our Recovery."
There it
That
As a housing
that
first.
was the title of
Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Green. Ms. Baker?
The answer is yes, we've discussed this, and we know that housing is first. Because if we give them the therapy, wrap the social services around them, and they don't have anywhere to go, they're going back to what they know. And that's the environment we don't want them to go back to. What we're going to do is invest these dollars as efficiently as possible.
We always do.
I know cottages and many cottages are very important, but we have also had other discussions with the healthcare district, not only on treatment, but also on housing and stepping them up. So we're still working that avenue as well.
I
So
like
there
the
may be
healthcare
a
district.
variety of housing types that we will do. We need to make sure that we're efficient at whatever we're doing so we can help as many individuals as possible.
Baker, I know that Delray Trauma Center has doctors there to treat this issue. I am not sure that the healthcare district does. I have a lot of respect for the healthcare district.
Understand.
These are monies that came from litigation for people who passed away or suffering, and we took care of the county money. And before I share it with any other agency, I want to be sure that I know about it beforehand, at least me as a county commissioner and my colleagues as well. And I want to make sure that it goes to housing first and not to treatment centers. Because what I see is the money here is going I don't see any housing in here, but I have your word that it will.
And it's in there.
I know it says.
It's in there, and we're going to do housing. We know that that's number one.
Very good, okay. Thank you. All right, Ms. Baker, thank you. If there's any other questions or comments, then I think we're ready to take a vote. Oh. I'm ready.
All right. William Freeman, Alexandria Larson, Stacy Katz, Lissa Franklin,
As you hear your name, come on up to the podium.
Tessa Moody, and Austin Wright.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Larson. I'll get to you in a minute.
There was
Yes,
a
ma'am.
gentleman they called. I thought he was first.
Yeah, I saw he's gone.
Whoever was there, who was the first card, Commissioner Weiss?
Alexandria Larson.
You're recognized, Ms. Larson.
That was the most unusual 240 pages I ever read in my life. And then there was the sanctuary and Andrus, A-N-D-R-U-S, another frightening document out of Yonkers, New York, which talked, guys, you got to read some of this stuff. Go back, I beg you, go back and read some of it. No. If you haven't read it, read it. That's all I'm asking, because I didn't hear Andrus mentioned once. I didn't hear sanctuary mentioned once. I didn't hear it. So if I don't hear it, I assume that they didn't see it or they didn't look at it, okay? That's the only thing I can do for you. But I'm looking at this because the healthcare district, we voted on that in 1988 for the working poor in Palm Beach County to have health insurance. Nothing more, nothing less. It was an issue. It's on our trim notices. It is for us, the working poor, to have insurance. We're going off into left field here with the healthcare district, and I'm very curious about how we're integrating the healthcare district into this. Because the taxpayers have one idea, and you might have another idea, so I guess we need a presentation on that also, how that works. Because when I read this, I legally don't see any way that they have a leg to stand on. We have a bond issue, we buy a product, that's the product. We don't have an extra product. This one really gave me pause last night and the night before and the night before that as I'm reading this, because I had to go back to it. Because when it talked about teaching our children about violence and how to avoid violence and all kinds of stuff, I mean, that sanctuary thing was very unusual. And I hope you do. I have great pause with all of this, and maybe you should come back and vote on this another day when it's a better explanation and a better thing on how this is all going to be integrated together. Because I think we're mixing monies, and it doesn't work. And
Thank
that's
you.
what I saw in the documents I read.
Thank you, Ms. Larson. Ma'am, you're recognized.
My name is Lisa Franklin. I am the executive director of the Delray Beach Drug Task Force. I'm the vice chair of the advisory board. Thank you for all of your attention to this. You guys are spot on, especially today. One of the other new words I would like to add to your dictionary today is supplementation. You mentioned the tobacco settlement previously, and that's actually when this word originally got thrown around because the use of the tobacco settlement dollars got mishandled and misappropriated to other things. And what that term really means is it's taking money that was allocated for one purpose and it uses to fund things that are already funded through other means. I have here with me what John Hopkins has put out for the principles for the use of the opioid litigation funds, what the state of Connecticut has done, what the Network for Public Health Law has done, some model state drug law, also for the supplementation language. And we've talked about it multiple times at the advisory committee. One of my most favorite public comments that we got at the advisory committee from a member of the public was from an often overlooked population, and she came up and she spoke and she said, I want to remind you guys that this money is for a community that hasn't been served for many years. It's not open for everyone, and this money is intended to be used for specific purposes. And she was correct, because just like you guys are correct, this money is a result of extreme heartache, extreme loss. It's awful what happened. It needs to be spent in a correct way, and that 90-10 is a way that we as a community have voted on at the advisory committee, so I urge you to keep that in mind.
Thank you so much.
Madam
Commissioner
Mayor?
Weiss? Just hold on just a second.
Yeah, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
I just want to ask you to put it on the record. Are you in support of the way this item is being presented to us as a member of the advisory board?
I'm in support of the plan that the board came up with. And the presentation that I saw today, there's things that were on that presentation that we did not come up with as the board.
Okay, you want to expound upon that?
Sure, like the public awareness, I took it on my phone.
It's in the plan.
Where it said we want to create a public awareness campaign, because unless somebody's been living under a rock, they're well aware of what's going on with the opioid epidemic. And that's, again, that would be a waste of monies. We've discussed that. And then in the bulleted slide that the housing should be focused on stable placement as well as affordability, blah, 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 blah. The last part, for seniors who are under strict financial pressures and living on fixed income and youth aging out of foster care, well, yes, we realize that those are, you know, populations that might specifically need extra care. We don't feel the need to specify because there's also people of color that are then overlooked. There's people based on their sexual orientation that are overlooked. We just want to treat people like people and have it available to anybody struggling, anybody that needs access to housing with opioid use disorder trying to enter recovery.
Okay, anything else?
No, that's.
I just a question for you. I mean, because you're in the field as well. I mean, don't children aging out of foster care have a very high propensity, though, to suffer from either one or both of those co-occurring?
Absolutely, especially because of ACEs and adverse childhood experiences, but they also have access to other services through what they have access to through, you know, DCF, the foster care systems, et cetera.
I think if they don't go to school, though, their foster care.
Correct, and then we have the whole group home issue, but then that's where we were going with this conversation in the meeting, is then it kind of led to the supplementation discussion, is then
it's tough that
it
doesn't.
got the
bleed
waters
over.
got muddy,
I
yeah.
understand. Okay, but I really appreciate your feedback. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for your service from the committee.
Madam Mayor, if
Yes.
I could add, and I will take credit that we were trying to rush through the presentation, but want to draw your attention to slide 19. And there was a motion passed at the last meeting of the advisory board, and it's at the bottom of that slide, that monies from the opioid settlement fund shall be expended to expand the availability of services and supports described in the master plan and not to supplement funding otherwise available for those purposes. And staff was in agreement with that our concern of saying no supplanting whatsoever is we did have some state and federal funds that were coming our way that we may not have in the future, but if they were proven to be successful, we'd want to be able to continue those plans. And the items that were just mentioned are in the plan that was approved by the advisory committee. It is very thick, but it was all included in
And
there.
the advisory, we also, through the advisory committee and our subcommittees, have done what we call a crosswalk between each one of the opioid settlement recommendations. I think Commissioner Woodard, you asked about approved uses. The settlement allows for approved core strategies, approved uses. So we did a crosswalk to make sure that the recommendation was consistent with the strategy and the use. Then we crosswalked it with social determinants of health element. Then we crosswalked it with RCI indicators. And lastly, the last piece was for the purposes of how we are going to measure this. We have worked with our subcommittee members on, I think, 2 or now 3 separate occasions to identify what standards are we going to focus on, and how are we going to, what outcomes and how are we going to measure it? So this is, again, we don't like to flood you with paper, but I'm very proud of our staff's work to really drill down into the weeds because we know how serious an issue this is. So this is our crosswalk document, and I'm confident that every one of our recommendations aligns expending plan recommendations aligns with a plan recommendation.
Very good, very good. Thank you, sir. All right, Commissioner Weiss? Ma'am, could you come on up and state your name?
Hi, I'm Tessa Moody.
Yes.
All right. I'm the community education lead and cultural anthropologist at Rebel Recovery, Florida. I help Austin Wright run the syringe exchange. I want to voice my approval for the budget. Our program is pretty restricted in how we can receive funds. There are lots of programs that have a variety of avenues for receiving funding to serve our population and other populations. We are really concentrated and focused on this population, and we are heavily restricted in the way that we are funded. And so we're on the ground with folks who are in acute use, who are just out of treatment or trying to get back into treatment because they don't have somewhere to live in between. And so the money that we receive is really going directly to being with those people multiple times on a weekly basis and serving their needs and keeping them alive while they are trying to acquire the rest of what they need from the rest of the community. Just want to reiterate some of the things we were discussing about social determinants of health. It's really those other things that determine what the outcomes are going to be for someone who's experiencing a substance use disorder. So where someone can go into treatment and they leave, and based on their class or their background, they have somewhere home to go to or a family they can stay with. Other people do not. And that is what leads them back into treatment and then back being homeless again and again and again. So the 90-10 ratio of the funding is what's going to create that cushion for people so that they can feel that they've made that progress that they have made, and they're encouraged and they can continue to become productive again and feel like they're a part of our community, because they are. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your work in Rebel Recovery.
Stacy Katz, followed by Austin Wright, followed by Michael Schlossman, followed by Susan Ramsey.
You're recognized.
Hi, Stacy Katz, member of the community first and foremost. I am a mother, a family member, friend, advocate, community member, as I said, retired law enforcement, and co-founder of Our Two Sons, which is a nonprofit organization to help people with anything and everything that they may need to secure recovery. When we talked about first of all, I just want to say this. This plan is everything that we as community members, and I speak on behalf of a lot of people that cannot be here, everything that we were hoping for and wishing for. It's not the same old, same old. We can't fall off the floor. We have to try something different. We are institutionalizing people. That is why the 90-10 makes sense to me, because if you spend more money on treatment, just because you get more treatment doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get better. My son has been in 18 treatment centers plus. I am broke, okay? And that is just me speaking as a mom, not as an advocate and all that. What's missing is the connection, the social determinants that Mr. Ulick and the committee has put on. I go to all of the advisory board meetings. My angst is that this gets passed ASAP, that we move forward, that we get on with it, because people are dying. This started in 2017 when the first, what was it called? The first plan was brought up here, and it didn't even have the word recovery in it, and this body changed that. Now it has that in it, because recovery is recovery. And you know, I gotta say this, 3 minutes is just not enough. I'm sorry, and you know what, I know, and I'm sorry that you didn't eat and someone brought you lunch and all that, but you know, maybe we should have this, like, this is so serious. Maybe we should have this first instead of last. I mean, maybe I have no right to make this thing, but if this has to get voted on again, perhaps I hope we can vote on it today.
We're here. Yeah, we're here.
Good?
You're here.
Okay.
We're voting on it.
All right.
Don't you worry.
Thank you all.
That's
Appreciate
okay.
it.
Are there any other cards? Yes, sir. Come on up and be recognized.
Hello, my name's Austin Wright. I am a person in long-term recovery, former injection drug user. I'm Director of Syringe and Harm Reduction Services at Rebel Recovery. I manage the county's syringe exchange program. I'm also a member at large of the advisory board. I want to express my support of this plan, the budget that's proposed, specifically the 90-10. I know that there's some questions on that. I just want to speak to, what the last few commenters have already spoken to, but we have data and research that supports this, but like anecdotally, it's not whether or not somebody goes to treatment that tends to be the predictor of those outcomes, whether they're positive or negative. I see people that I've engaged with for years at this point that have gone in and out of treatment and end up right back where they were. The thing that determines, I've also seen people that don't, and the thing that determines which way they go tends to be what level of support they have. There's a lot of treatment available around here. I wouldn't say that there's not room for improvement, but this funding is funding that we don't get elsewhere. There's other dollars that can and should go towards those deep end services. I think this funding should be really focused on those social determinants of health that are missing in large part. They're just not there, and for a lot of the people that we work with, it's exhausting to see them go in and out of these services that continue to get the funding, but nothing comes of it, right? We need to put this money into doing something different, and that different thing has been shown to work. I think both through data and just anecdotally and kind of logically, right? So, yeah, cool. 3 minutes of play.
Thank you for your working too with recovery. Sir, you're recognized.
Good afternoon. My name is Michael Schlossman. I am the Chief Executive Officer of the Florida Association of Recovery Residences. And thank you very much for allowing me to rise in vehement support of this plan. I'm here not only as a representative of FAR, but I'm also one of the lucky ones. I am an opioid overdose survivor. 14 years ago, last December, on the night of December 6, 2010, I swallowed 400 pills in an attempt to end the suffering and years of pain and anguish. And I was fortunate enough to survive. I was in a coma for 2.5 days. I was not expected to survive. If I did, I was expected to be a vegetable. And I'm very, very lucky. And so I'm dense, but I'm not an idiot. I realize that I was put on this earth for a purpose, and it's a real honor to be here and to talk to you about this plan. And I've been fortunate enough to be involved with this plan from the very inception. I was the original chairperson when it was called the steering committee before it was the advisory committee, and we literally created this thing from the ground up, from nothing, about 10 of us in a room trying to figure out what the heck we were going to do. And I will say this, later on I became a therapist, I became a clinical director, I've owned recovery residences, I've owned treatment centers, and I'm back to practicing law, which is the great surprise of my life. But addiction is a very, very difficult thing to explain to someone who doesn't suffer from it. And, I was taught very early on that when my family or my parents said, "We don't understand," I was taught to say, "It's not important that you understand, it's important that you support me." And I will say that in hindsight, based on 31 years of relapse and attempt to get sober, getting sober was easy. Staying sober was impossible. It was that 90% of those social determinants that caused 100% of my recurrence of use. So thank you very much.
It's powerful. Thank you, sir. Ma'am?
I think I'm the last one and probably the shortest one. Here we go. Okay. So I'll be brief, really. That's ridiculous for me to say that. My name is Susan Ramsey, and I'm very happy to be here. I wear a lot of hats in this space. I am the General Counsel for the Florida Association of Recovery Residences. I'm also on the board of the Hub. I'm a member of I'm on the board of the Triangle Club. Right. I'm also a registered nurse and a rape crisis counselor. And wait a minute, I also went to law school, somewhere in the middle of that. I've been a long-time Palm Beach County resident. I have daughters here, and I have grandchildren here. And the most important thing I can say today is I'm an opiate addict, and I'm in long-term recovery. I have a remission from a mental illness that tells me I don't have it. And I can assure you, because I study the subject quite a lot now, you don't really want to know why, just lawsuits, that kind of stuff. But, I was an opiate addict and qualified for the settlement. So I could tell that story. That you can call me up, I'll tell you that story another day. But the most important thing is I had been involved with this plan, and I support it 100%. I can tell you that in some studies, 75% of women alcoholics have a history of trauma. Right? And all of that trauma is mostly related to where they live and the safety of where they live. And as, a rape crisis counselor and now a lawyer, I've represented crime victims for 38 years. And I can tell you that's what they need. They need support, because it's not just getting sober, it's staying sober. I know that. I was not a one-time wonder. So when we go back to this, and I'm going to beat the clock,
No, it's
all
okay.
I'm going to say...
You're fine.
All I'm going to say is that I wholeheartedly support this team, this plan. I voted today. It's great to be in Palm Beach County. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that testimony. It's very powerful. Thank you very much. Wow. I'm so proud of you all. And it came from testimony, and not from the paperwork. And I think that that we all agree that you're on the right track. God willing, we got the money. We're going to make sure that it goes towards security and what you have also spoke about too. But the testimony of those who have been in this journey is powerful, and we need to make sure that we do what is right for them and for the whole county. I don't know which light went on first, Commissioner Woodward, and then Commissioner Weiss.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to thank everyone that spoke to us today, and a couple of points it was a good reminder, because we talk about recovery, and sobriety is something that happens every single day. And if you suffer from addiction, there's not a cure, so to speak, I'm sorry, but it's something that you have to do every single day, which is why I do like the overall scope of this being a 90-10, because the 10% is helping the person who's full into it. But once we get them sober and help them get cleaned up, that's a decision they have to make for the rest of their lives to not use whichever substance got them into trouble in the first place. So I very much look forward to, I know this is the first year of this, and what we're funding, and with the data that's going to come from it, and us learning from this. And I know that there's a number of these settlements all across the country, and I think that what we're starting with is a really good starting place. It's not going to be where we end up, because we have the flexibility to make changes as we go, but I'm encouraged by this. And the people who are in the hardcore of using right now, that's a part of it, but we do have a number of people that we want to keep them sober and clean and productive in the lives that they can live amongst us, and be productive members of our society just like they want to be. So I'm encouraged by this. I look forward to seeing what the next year brings with this program. So,
thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Weiss?
Thank you, Mayor. To the folks that stuck around here to talk to us, you guys have been here all day like we have, and I just want you to know how important it was to have you here and to hear your voices, and so I just want to give you my appreciation for spending the day with us. I know it's been long, but you're on a very important mission. So, and with that, Mayor, I'd like to go ahead and make a motion.
Very good.
I would like to move that we approve item 5E1, A, B, C, D, and E.
Very good. First from Commissioner Weiss, second from the Vice Mayor. All those for. Anybody opposed? See that it passes unanimously 6-0. Five. Oh, I thought he was just short. Don't tell him, Martha. 5 to 0.
Stands taller as senator.
Yeah, true. And I want to thank you, staff. You're damn good. We got work to do, don't we? And we will do it together. Thank you. Thank you to the members who are here, members on the advisory board, our recovery folks. We need you. You're very important to the people of Palm Beach County. Thank you. Thank you so much. God bless. We have.
I'm hearing motion F. Did you say F as well?
There is no F on our.
We have a 5F1, which has to do with permitting. But I think we've done this completely. Yes, it was an add-on. Okay, so we're all done.
Yep,
Right,
thank
thank you
you.
so much. Now we're going on to building 5F1, which is an add-on. Okay. And I see we have our building inspector here. Would we like to have a presentation, or have we been briefed sufficiently enough?
You have a 6? We have a 6.
Mayor,
Yes,
I'm
Ms.
sorry.
Baker, I'm sorry.
Go
ahead.
When we approved this plan, did we do A, B, C, D, E?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, just
That's okay.
verifying.
No, it's
that's
okay.
all.
We didn't leave out anything.
Okay.
Okay, now, I'm going to repeat 5F1, which is the add-on, and that is with regard to temporary waiver of building permit fees for repairs on Hurricane Milton. Would anybody here like to have a presentation? I think we've had a good briefing, and I think we're ready to take motions and a vote. I have a motion from Commissioner Woodward and a second from Vice Mayor Marino. All those for, anybody opposed? See that it passes 5 to 0.
Thank you so much.
Unanimously.
Thank you very much.
And thank you. This was a very good idea from someone. Appreciate it. Yes, ma'am.
We don't
Yes, sir.
like to exercise it, but if it happens, then we need to do what we can
Is
to
this the
help.
first time the county has ever done this?
No, we did it in Irma. Back in
Oh,
the day,
okay.
we did it in Irma.
Good. Well, I'm glad to see that we're doing it again. And hopefully, we won't have to do it again this year. So thank you very
Exactly.
much. So, oh, did you want to make a comment? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Vice Mayor.
I want to say thank you. And, this actually, when we've had several meetings out in the acreage and Avenir, and we've had representatives, and we've had questions from those that were most affected. And this was one of the main questions that was asked. And it's like, I had a fence, the fence is down. Do I have to come in and get a new permit for my fence? And if so, is it going to cost me anything? So correct me if I'm wrong, is if it is a simple repair like a fence or something like that, go ahead and do the repair, correct? Okay.
Yeah, there's a ton of information on our website that talks about making emergency repairs immediately. Start the work immediately. Replacement of a fence in the same location, $1,000 or less, no problem. Put your fence back up. We're trying to help people repair.
And what we wanted.
And our staff has been so helpful back at the office to put together a website, dedicated folks that are there to answer any questions specifically related to Hurricane Milton or any related damages. So if they reach out to us on our website or
Could you repeat the website?
233-5001,
Yeah.
they will be able to get
If you go to the Building Division website, there's a link to Hurricane Milton Recovery.
Thank
And
you.
it has all the stuff there that talks about what you can do without a permit, and that we didn't put up the press release. We were waiting for you guys to approve us waiving permit fees. But it's ready to go. It'll be up tomorrow.
Excellent. Thank
But
you.
Mayor, I have an addition to that. For everyone that has suffered some form of damage, the most important thing you can do is document it. Document it, document it. If you don't document it, you can't prove it to your insurance company that this was something that was a loss. So document it. And if you have pictures from before, that is even a better way to prove that you've had damage. And don't, again, don't take the first check that your insurance company decides to send you. You really need to have a thorough investigation of your home, because you have no idea what a tornado, and this is different than our wind event, the tornado, how it can pivot your house, how it can warp warp the house on the foundation. You have no idea. We are not experts. Let the experts help you with this. And I will end my commercial.
I've got one thing to add to that commercial. Make sure that whatever contractor you sign an agreement with is a certified contractor. We have a lot of contractors coming into our community, and we want to protect our residents. So ensure that that contractor is certified. And if you need assistance with that, we have a contractor certification division, and you can reach out. Go to www.pbc.gov, Planning, Zoning, and Building, and there's a contractor certification link that you can go to.
Let me ask you something, Speaker. And I don't know, I've had some folks come up, does a certified construction fellow or somebody wants to repair, should he have something, does he have a paper with him?
He should have that, and most of them have their license on their vehicles.
Right.
And we also can look them up, and there's information on our website of other jurisdictions that we can allow for them to come into our jurisdiction.
So if they're from St. Lucie or wherever.
The governor's emergency order allows registered contractors from other counties to come here and work. It allows Division I contractors, building, general, or residential contractors can do other affiliated things like roofing. So they're trying to streamline it. We're trying to do our part too.
Very good. And that's all on our website.
It's on our website.
It is. There's a
If anybody has any questions,
Hurricane Milton tab right on pbc.gov. They can click on there. It goes to our website. We have a web form they can fill out, and we'll get back to them within 24 hours.
We have a Milton box. What's
Milton
that?
box. That's the pzb-miltoninfo@pbc.gov.
See that? I learn something every day.
You can email questions. We'll respond immediately.
Very good.
At
Good
pbc.gov.
building department. Thank you.
That's it.
Thank you for staying here.
Thank you all.
Good that we had this add-on, Ms. Baker. Okay, I think that we have taken care of, and help me if I'm incorrect, on the health department? Huh? We did that. No, we need to have, okay. We're going to, yes, I know that, but I was just wondering if we've already done that because she did that before she left. Okay, we're going to recess as the Board of County Commissioners, and we're going to now convene as the Environmental Control Board. And we have 6A1. Did Commissioner Baxter ask somebody to do this for her? No, okay, so this is somebody else. Okay, very good. All right, does anybody wish to take this on?
I'm trying to take it.
Commissioner Weiss?
Yeah, I'm going to move that we move item 6A1, recommending the approval of appointment of one member to the Environmental Control Hearing Board for a term of 3 years, beginning November 19th, 2024 to November 18th, 2027, and that nominee is Larry M. Bush, MD.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a second. All those for, anybody opposed? See that it passes unanimously 5-0. We are now adjourning as the Environmental Control Board, and we are reconvening as the Board of County Commissioners. And we're moving right on to 7A, just Commission District Appointments. Does anybody have any Commission District Appointments? Seeing none.
Yes.
Vice Mayor, go right ahead.
Okay, for Commissioner Baxter, I would like to ask that Mary Lou Bedford be reappointed, I believe she said, to the Discover the Palm Beaches Board. And it does not need a second or approval.
Very good.
It's- Okay.
Thank you very much. Anybody else?
Yes, I have one myself.
Oh, okay. Oh, my goodness. Go ahead.
And I would like to appoint Ms. Pamela Cantor to the Emergency Medical Advisory Council.
Very good. Any other commissioners at this time? Seeing none, we're going to move right on to staff comments, administration comments.
Just like to thank staff for all the hard work on a number of pressing issues today, and their day-to-day work, but especially the Vanderbilt and then the community service item on the opioid settlement.
Thank you so much. Okay, we have a question from Vice Mayor to you, Ms. Baker.
Ms. Baker, last week when we had or the week before, when you were doing your board directives and you were talking about the salaries and the positions and that each office was contacted, my office was not contacted, nor did anyone contact me and say, is this person in this position, is this person in this position, is this person in this position? When you said what you said, was that supposed to occur?
Yes, that was supposed to occur. And I was actually went back to the assistant county administrator, and I think that he made the rounds, it was after the fact, to clean up some things that had happened or went out. One of the things that occurred, and we should have had a better handle on it, was promotions were not automatic. The commissioners, any promotion must be, the commissioner must assign that promotion. And that is where we missed the boat. Some people were already in various classifications, which they would have fallen into the new classifications. Others were not. And we should have made that effort to come to the board in order to get that approval up front. We should have come to the board to say, who are you appointing to these particular positions? That did not occur. And so for anyone that was slighted, we do apologize for that, but it was a rush job, and that's no excuse to get this done so that we could get it in the appropriate time frame.
What I want to make sure is that anybody that was moved around incorrectly might show a promotion, then a demotion, that not show up in their HR file, because that's not really what happened. So I'm just...
No, ma'am, that did not. It is, we worked with them, making sure people got in the right classifications after, hopefully we spoke with every one of you to make sure that happened. It does not show a demotion. There were steps that we had to take. The first one was reclassifying everything and then moving people into the right pay grades. And so the pay grade issue there was no issue with the pay grade issue. It was whether they moved to chief of staff or not. And so that was our mistake, and not coming to the board to say, are you moving these individuals to that particular classification?
Well, I'm just going to put it on record that no one came to my office and asked me who was going where.
Yes, ma'am.
And assumptions were made, and they were made incorrectly, and I
is
don't
correct.
appreciate that.
Understand.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have any comments from the county attorney?
I do want to thank Howard Falcon for all the work he did on Vanderbilt, because he did spend a lot of nights and weekends working with ISME. And I do also have to say that ISME was the leader in this endeavor, and she put in a lot of hours, and she is quite an asset. And we also contributed with David Oddie as well on this. So I just wanted to say thank you and recognize all of them.
Thank you very much, Ms. Kaufman. All right, let's go on to commissioner comments, and we're going to start to my left, Commissioner Barnett.
Thank you, Mayor. I have brief comments. I'll try to make them brief. With regards to our human traffic initiative, which our office has been working on for the last several months with administration and staff, Laura Hanley, wanted to give you an update. You may remember a few months ago, we, with the permission of the board, issued directives to staffs in order to boost our county's awareness program, which we will be rolling out in January. I wanted to thank Stephanie Shanaha from Public Safety, as well as Public Affairs, TV20, Palmtran, of course, Ms. Baker, administration, on helping us with this project that we could not have done without your help. Extensive input. We've been partnering with the school district, the healthcare district, the Port of Palm Beach, South Florida Regional Transportation Agency, the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office Human Trafficking Task Force, the Human Trafficking Coalition of the Palm Beaches, Flight Center. Heidi Schaefer, thank you for your help and leadership on this as well. Pepper Behavioral Health and Palm Beach County League of Cities. We're partnering with our municipalities. As you may remember, there were 5 parts of this program that I'd like to share with you that will be implemented. The first is all county staff will be watching a 5-minute refresher training video from the Department of Homeland Security during National Human Trafficking Prevention Month in January. Number 2, Once we finalize approval, we'll customize the Department of Homeland Security human trafficking poster, which Laura just handed to you, with the county logo and a QR code linking the Public Safety's Victim Services updated website. Once approved, the poster will be distributed to our county partners to use alongside the signage already required by county ordinance. I think poster number 2 is on page 2. Number 3, we'll display the human trafficking awareness poster on Cloud Lake's billboard at Southern Boulevard and I-95, thanks to our partners in the municipalities, specifically Cloud Lake and the mayor of Cloud Lake, Russ Nitti, and the Cloud Lake Council for providing this to us. We're also going to be partially wrapping a palm tram bus with our human trafficking messaging. I want to thank the board again for getting behind and supporting these directives to staff and supporting this fight in human trafficking, which is a very big problem in Palm Beach County, as you know. I think Palm Beach County ranks number 3 in the entire state in dealing with this nightmare. And we've had a couple of bad instances in my district in particular that I've had to go on the news and talk about. But I want to thank our partners in the government agencies, our intergovernmental partners, as well as the deputies who have to face this on the ground and in the trenches every single day. That's all I have. Just wanted to update the board. Thank you.
Pretty impressive. Thank you. Commissioner Woodward, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Commissioner, for this initiative and all the work that you and your staff have put into it. I would just also like to say for anyone who's still hanging in there listening to us, days like this are backed by a number of hours by our staff and other staff that put the work into getting us to these levels. And I just don't think it's always appreciated or even understood. But today especially, I know a number of you gave up nights and weekends to get us to this point and to bring us home what seems to be an amicable solution, which for a few days there didn't seem possible. And with a number of these, last night even, but with a number of these issues, just thank you to all staff who's out there listening to us for working hard for the people of this county. I, for one, very much appreciate you and want everyone else who's listening to know how hard you all work. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Weiss?
Thank you. I wrote that down. Early voting started yesterday for everyone, and just a reminder for you can vote at any of our early voting locations, but if you do choose to vote on Election Day, make sure that you know your polling place because you have to vote at your precinct on Election Day. But for the next week, 2 weeks in? It's 2 weeks away. Wow. All right, so 2 weeks, you have a number, I think 20 locations around the county. Is just take your ID and you can vote anywhere in the county. We have canvassing board people that can say that a lot better, but I did write it down. Thank you for reminding me.
I also got the situation.
All right. Couple things. Actually, I have 3 things that I'd like to do. Let's take I think the easiest one first, and that is, I've had this conversation with our engineering department, but I'm asking for the board to allow me to direct staff to have electronic signage put in place, allowing the public to be informed in regards to closures on Southern Boulevard, across the bridge. Folks, unfortunately, have not had pre-warning. They get off, or they're coming that direction, and then they find themselves down somewhere and sort of stuck. So, want to make sure we have signage on the way off ramps on 90. So it'd be east of 95 on Southern. Also ask that we work with our partners on FDOT to put signage up when there's a closure going on, both north and south on 95, so north of Palm Beach Lakes, and then it would be south of Southern Boulevard, so folks know that that road is, for all intent and purposes, closed. So that's number one. So anybody have an objection to that? Thank you. Next is I want to take a moment to acknowledge the passing of Marty Perry. Marty, as we all know, was a land use attorney here in Palm Beach County, spent more than almost 60 years helping with the development and all sorts of other committees in Palm Beach County. And his knowledge, his history of the county will be sorely missed, I'm sure, by my colleagues as well. But I wanted to make sure we acknowledged his passing from the Board of County Commissioners once we find out more about what the family plans to do and so forth. I'm sure that information will be shared as well. And then the last thing, and this sort of works out well, hopefully he's not watching on TV, I'd like to request that we name Gramercy Park in the name of our colleague, Mac Bernard. He spent the better part of his time on this board getting that park done. The park, well, we did the groundbreaking for the park a few months ago. It's not going to be finished before he leaves us, but it was a major undertaking to get that to come to fruition, and I think it would be a great honor to have his name
Second
on
that
that
if
park.
it's necessary. Can we take a vote on that now? Do we need a second? I'd like to second that for Commissioner Bernard. I don't know if I can I?
Well, we'll let the Vice Mayor
Okay, I just did. All right. All those for, anybody opposed? See that it passes unanimously, 5-0.
And that's all I have.
Oh, very good. Thank you very much. Vice Mayor?
Thank you. Just a couple of shout outs. There were a lot of us that traveled to Dallas last week with a lot of thinkers in our community, and it was a great exchange, and it helps to show us where we're succeeding and where we're failing. I did find that the comparison to Dallas was interesting, and that we as a county are very successful. That's what my takeaway from Dallas. Now, there's always room for improvement, and there's always room to listen to other folks to make recommendations. But as a whole, I think we've been very good stewards of the land that we have, the budget that we have, and the folks that surround us. I do want to say thank you to staff. It has been a yeoman's job trying to get Vanderbilt so quickly done. Something like this needs time. And when I had Harvey in my office yesterday, I said, I am the tortoise. I'm the one that wants to go slow and make sure everything's, every I is dotted and every T is crossed. And, this is a legacy that we will all leave to the county. So thank you for all of that. If you don't see Greg and I on the next Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for the next 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, we will be at canvassing. If you want to complain, make sure you go and vote. Because if you don't vote, you have no right to complain. And with that, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'm going to add something to our, many folks don't know that we have a side room where we have some snacks. And these snacks are pretty darn good. They keep us going. And I'd like to add some fruits, such as bananas or tangerines. And if there is any objection to that, I'm sorry. That's just what we're going to do. I think it's nutritious, it's good, and I think that it's probably the wave of the future now to have all these. If y'all want to add vegetables, I'm going to leave that up to Commissioner Woodward. I'm not a big vegetable fan, but I do like the fruits.
Tomato is a vegetable?
No, tomato is I think tomatoes are fruit. Tomatoes are fruit. I don't think we need to take a vote on it, really. So I'm just going to move forward. I want to thank my colleagues on the board. You're really strong, hard workers to go through the issues today with I think we had a 15-minute break from 9:30 on with some really tough issues. And wow, I've been on a number of boards, but this is the hardest working group I've ever served on. And I know that having a top-notch university want to come to Palm Beach County involves so many legal issues with land and parking. My goodness, I never thought parking was so important, but it became important. And I think that we have our lawyers and Ms. Baker and her team to thank for working on this let me name names, Kaufman and Isami, Falcone, Mr. Oddie, all the attorneys worked on this tirelessly through the night to get these issues done. And Ms. Baker, you were a lead on this, because if you did not like it, it would not have happened. I know, because you are a leader and our advocate on this, and I appreciate that. So it was incredible. And then all the community services that we went through today, monies are coming in, monies are going out. We've got a lot of challenges. That comes with success. This county is a success. We're going to have challenges ahead of us, and I think we got the best damn county commission ever had to meet these challenges head on. So with that, if there's nothing else before the board, I'm going to adjourn for the day at 4:30 p.m. on a long day. Thank you for your service. Thank you, staff. Thank you.